the session that we have now is the South Central Tibeto-Burman folkloric motifs as seen in the Wonderchild story. So he'll be presenting David A. Peterson. He's a professor and he teaches linguistics at Dartmouth College in the US. And he'll be presenting an exploration of the folkloric motives in the tale of the supernatural Wonderchild story, who avenges the death of his brothers and father that is found in numerous Tibeto-Burman speaking communities of the Kuki-Chin, such as the Thado in Manipur, the Lai in Burma, and the Kumi in Bangladesh. After his presentation, we will have a discussion, and the discussant will be Professor N. Pramodini. She's a professor at the Department of Linguistics at Manipur University. Please continue.
Thank you very much. So first of all, thank you to L.Somi Roy for inviting me, and also to the Imasi Foundation and to the CIAL. I'm really excited to have a chance to talk about one of my favorite stories. I have lots of stories, and I'm excited to share it with you today. So first, my acknowledgements for my funding sources over the years and my consultants for numerous languages. So I want to mention the term South Central. Shobana mentioned briefly that linguists have recently started to stop calling what we previously called Kuki-Chen, Kuki-Chen. So nowadays we call it South Central for the most part. The reason, in short, is because Kuki especially is a term which is problematic for some of the people. Some of the speakers of the languages. So to that end, we think a more neutral sounding term is better. So South Central is what we use. My background, just very quickly, because we don't have much time. I've been working in Bangladesh, especially since the end of the 20th century, since 1999. I've been working with these languages since a few years before that. I've also worked to a very small degree here in Northeast India, mostly thanks to Shobana working with Lamkang, which is spoken here in Manipur. And I've also worked in Burma a little bit, but unfortunately the project that I had starting in Burma in early 2020 was cut off by COVID and other events. So what I hope to leave you with today is, first of all, an appreciation for the rich oral literature that the smaller communities have. And I also want you to probably everybody here is aware that these traditions are in extreme danger, and they're especially in need of being documented somehow, whether that, we can talk about the values relatively of, putting things in archives or not, but there needs to be some preservation of these traditions, because children are just not learning them anymore. So specific goals I have. We're going to look at a widespread oral text in this part of the world. Especially it's found in South Central, but there's at least one other language that has it that I'm aware of. And I call it the Wonderchild story because the central character of it is somebody that is a wonder child. I'll discuss some of the attested structural variation. So we'll compare them because they turn out quite differently in the different communities that we see them in, these stories. And I'll note two pervasive South Central folkloric motifs or themes that are represented in the text, and talk about other texts where these motifs are demonstrated. And I'll, can't really say that, but point out further texts with similarly widespread distributions, which could be given comparable treatments to what I'm trying to do for this text. And so if you're aware of this story in some tradition that I'm not mentioning today, then please be sure to tell me about it in the question period, because I'd like to find more instances of it. I go through lots and lots of older ethnographic studies which have collections of texts in them, but it's not always there. So I'm going to skip over this. How did I become interested in the issue of text distribution? You can ask me about it. It's a funny story that leads me in this direction. With this particular text, I first encountered it in about 1995 when a person that I was working with on Hakalai at that point, Kenneth van Beek, He told me a version of the story, and at least at that point, Ken was not the best storyteller. We had other versions which were more detailed and maybe more artistically developed, but. He nevertheless included all of the crucial elements that a lot of the other instances of this that I've encountered over the years have in them. This is a little bit dark, but you can see Mizoram kind of in the middle there, and so Lai is spoken here in Hakka in Chin State. The next slide. Okay, the next instances of it that I ran into were actually in Kumi, although you'll see that in Kumi it actually turns out it's quite different from the first version that I heard. Mru is another language spoken. Kumi is spoken here on the border, either side of the border in Myanmar or Burma and Bangladesh, and Mru is spoken in Bangladesh. There's a small number of them in Burma as well. The next time I ran into it was in the small collection of texts at the end of William Shaw's The Tado Cookies. So a story called The Vine Cutters, and we'll see how this is similar and different from the other versions in a moment. And then when Shobanaz was working with Lamkang, so even prior to any time I thought about actually thinking about the comparison of these, I mentioned it to Shobana and she said, oh yeah, we've got that story. So there's a story also in Lamkang. And one last language that I'll mention is Rengmicha. It's spoken kind of between the two stars at the bottom there along the Bangladesh-Burmese border. So Rengmicha is a very endangered language. It's only spoken by about 5 elderly individuals now. And the version of the story that's there is quite different, so much so that I even question, is this actually the same story? It's become so remote from the original, or what I think is the original. South Central Tibeto-Burman, or Kuki-Chin, has this kind of a subgrouping. So not all languages are related to each other equally. So within a group of languages, there are languages which are more similar to each other. So we give kind of geographic descriptions to where the different groupings are nowadays. We're trying to get away from names like Kuki-Chin and just talk about things in terms of where they are located geographically. So the languages that I just mentioned, so Lamkang is what we call a northwestern language. Hakka Lai is what we call a central language, typically core central language. Tado is a northeastern language, and Kumi and Rengmicha are both southwestern languages in this schema of things. So I don't know of this story in the southeastern languages so far. In addition, there is, I mentioned Mru, another language of southern Bangladesh, which has it. That's actually part of a different subgroup of Tibeto-Burman. So within Tibeto-Burman, we have these large groupings of languages that are related to each other, kind of like in the Indo-European language family, we have Romance languages, we have Indic languages, we have Germanic languages. So comparing to that, South Central is kind of like Germanic or kind of like Romance. I usually compare it to those in Indo-European. The languages are related to each other similarly. So Mru is actually in a different family. So if all of these languages, except for Mru, are Germanic, Mru is not Germanic. It's like Greek or something like that, although not that far apart. So it's closer to... I'm not sure how the sound is going to work here. We hopefully will be able to hear it just from my computer because I don't have a output source for the cable here. Just playing a little bit of each of the languages for you. So this is Lai, so you can hear what it sounds like.
Lanliao piahin tarpa pakhadaragumni fa panga anai na. Voi khachuan pani chun zun lek izuam nausi tia afale chu asom nai. So
if you're a speaker of Mizo, you can probably understand that. But so a little bit longer, I'll give you for the Mru version. So it's maybe about a minute here. I may cut it off a little bit before the end.
It's a power nit ya chăm kir ưa bờ bè. Yung khó mê sinh linh rồi ninh rồi này đã. Thế để sinh rừng krong ta đã bắn thế chưa? Sinh linh rồi mang bè. Krong bờ. Mê sinh linh rồi. Ai ý. Từng gom lực ya âm mưa sang bắc bờ ya từng bạn ya từng nó mới phải còn cái trang kín gom. Bè. Nó bà tẹt mẹ bà. Ăn tay nâng khám đó bật tham ăn lòng tăng các bạn.
So I'll stop there. I left a little bit more in here because I kind of wanted you to hear when they get to a point where characters are talking to each other. There's a definite aspect of performance in a lot of these that is quite striking. So here's Kumi.
Ang puhari, tiyari, amha takore, bisa tang am chang na kangaya, ang pulay yun na. Ako the, kutihari, kimbaw na ka bele utla sate, ang pu itri na les haile. Ani kuti bele una, athawa na ble, ng pu kale di na buba na domba, na pite. Na ble ang pulay tako yo bele.
Oops. So I'll skip the last one. I don't think that's not that audible. Can I go to the next slide? Okay. So anyway, we have these different stories. So in Lai, the story is called Fatherless, because and Fatherless actually is the name of the Wonderchild in the story. And as you'll figure out, he's fatherless because he doesn't have a human father, as far as we know. The Kumi version is called the Eagle story, for reasons which will become clear in a few minutes. It's also called the Yampochu story. Yampochu is the name of the Wonderchild. In Muru, it's called Koite, and Koite is the name of a different character. I can explain later which that is. In Tado, it's called the Vine Cutter story, as will become clear in a minute why it's called the Vine Cutter story. In Lamkang, it's called the story of seven sons. And in Ringmiche, it's actually called the story about the time the sun disappeared, which seems very different, right? So I want to actually read for you, it's reportedly also in other languages, but I want to read for you the shortest version of this that I have. And this is the Tado version in Shaw. And one thing that strikes me about this version is, being written down sometime in the the mid-20s probably, it seems to have been cleaned up quite a bit from the standpoint of linguists. So it doesn't strike me that it's totally an oral version of the text. But let me see. I can put this also on the screen here. Hopefully that's visible in case my English is not, I can't actually do that. Let me see what I need to do here. Hang on. There's a trick for doing this on Macs. Okay, so I'll try to advance this as I read it. So there was a man who had 7 sons. One day when clearing field, they beheld a great vine in the midst of it. Said the father, "My sons, let us make a contest of cutting this, and the one that fails to cut clean through, let him go and sit at the gateway of the lion." So on a day, his wife, having set herself to wetted her children's dows, exceedingly, I guess I would say, sharp. But their fathers she wetted on the wrong side. So they went to their cutting contest, and the sons cut through the vine, but the father cut not through it. Said the sons, "Father, do not go." But their father said, "Why belie the word I gave?" So he went to the lion's gateway and sat there. A wildcat came by. "Who are you that sit in my gateway?" "I will eat you," it said. And the man answered, "Eat me. As the stars in the heavens, as the leaves upon the earth, so is the number of those that will come to find me. My sword has been whetted on the Aichi stone, and the whittlings from my arrows equaled the layers of wild swine in volume. The wildcat was afraid and fled. A tiger came. "Who are you that sit in my gateway?" "I will eat you," said he. The man repeated his former saying, and the tiger was afraid and fled. Then the lion came. "Who are you that sit in my gateway?" "I will eat you," he said. The man said, "Eat me. As the stars in the heavens, as the leaves upon earth, so is the number of those that will come to find me. My sword has been whetted on the Aichi stone, and the whittlings of my arrows equaled the layers of wild swine in volume." The lion came and ate him. Okay. Thereafter, the 7 sons went in search of him. They slept on the way at the house of their father's sister. And she got ready rice and meat and drink, and they took it and came to the house of the lion. In the night, the lion said to the mouse, "Mr. Mouse, gnaw bows." So gnaw their bows, right? Chew their bows. So the mouse went and gnawed their bows. In the morning, the 7 young men waited on the wall and called to the lion, "Show us how you ate our father." And the lion came out, and they drew their bows, but the bows brake in twain. Then the lion made an end of them. Then their mother, grieving in her heart, lay on her housetop and wept. And God loosed his bow at her and caused her to conceive. And when her child was born, he was a man-child, and he had with him at birth an iron beam, an iron bow withal. And when he was grown and played with his fellows, he used always in his turn to strike his playfellows' beams with his beam, till they said, "If you are so strong, go and take revenge for your father and your brethren." So he went to his mother and said, "Mother, what killed my father and my brothers? When you were as high as the platform for drying the paddy, I will tell you," said she. The boy grew up quickly to the height of the platform. "Mother," he said, "tell me today. I have reached the platform." But she said, "When you are a man, I will tell you." Then when he became a man, his mother said to him, "The slayer of your father and your brethren is the lion. I will take revenge," said he. So he took his iron bow and set forth, and by the way he spent the night at the house of his father's sister. "My child," she said, "whither goest thou?" He said, "I go to avenge my father and my brothers." Said his aunt, "My child, do not go. Your brothers, every one of them, are utterly cut off. You are alone, and alone you cannot kill him." But he answered, "Nevertheless, I can undertake it." And then his aunt said, "If you would avenge in full your father and your brothers, let you throw up a stone, and before it has fallen back to earth, drink this jar empty down to the peg. Then catch that pig of mine 20 palms in girth, and pitch it over the length of the house and over the breadth of the house. If you can accomplish this, then indeed you shall take revenge for your brothers and your father." And all that his aunt had said he did. So she killed her pig and gave it to him to take with him. And she drew off wine for him and made him ready a gourd full of fat, saying, "When you reach the house of the lion, he will give you wine. Pour it all down a gap in the platform. Drink your own wine. He will give you meat. Cast it away through a gap in the platform. Eat your own meat. The wine he gives you is your brethren's blood and the flesh of your brothers." Then he went to the house of the lion, and when he came there, the lion gave him wine, and he poured it away and drank his own wine. He gave him meat, and he cast it away and ate his own meat. At night, the lion said, "Mr. Mouse, notch bow." Notch bow meaning chew the bow. Right? And Master Mouse came back and said, "My lord, I have no teeth left." In the night, because remember, he had an iron bow, so the mouse broke his teeth on the bow. In the night, the lion's cock crew with a cock-a-doodle-doo, Chongpu's death day, stranger's strength day, and the lion squeezed his gullet. Then the cock crew again, cock-a-doodle-doo, Chongpu's strength day, stranger's death day. Chongpu must be the name of the lion. And the lion fed him. On the morrow, the man stripped the bark of a tree off a tree and broke the gourd of fat at the fork in which he sat and waited. He called out to the lion, "Show that which you did to my father and my brothers." And then the lion came forth with, "I will show." And he lashed his tail and leaped at the man and well nigh seized him. Then the man shot with his bow into the open maw, and the lion lay still. But the man was afraid to come down, and as there came by a bee flying, he called to him, "Pray, Mr. Honeybee, look at that animal I have shot, whether it be dead or alive." The bee went and buzzed at its vent, buzzed at its head, and went inside and flew off with a scrap of the liver. Then there came by a hornet. Said the man, "Pray, Mr. Hornet Bee, look at that animal I have shot. Is it dead or alive?" The hornet went and made a buzzing at the vent and buzzing at the head, and went inside and carried off a scrap of the liver. Then the man came down and took the lion's head and took the heads of his brothers and his father and brought them home. Now while he was away, a man had been visiting his mother by night, and she had fastened the door, and when her son arrived at the house, was shut, and he said, and he cried, "Mother, open me the door." "You are not my son," she answered. "I will not open." "Mother," said he, "I am not indeed your son. If you believe me not, stretch a thread across the hearth, and if I shoot at and cut the thread, you will know that I am your son, and if I fail to sever it, I shall be no child of yours." She stretched the thread, and he shot it in two, but nevertheless she did not believe him and opened not. So he said to his mother, "Mother, when dawn comes, look on the paddy mortar, look on the hen roost, and then look towards the horizon." Early his mother rose and looked on the paddy mortar, and the lion's head was there. And she looked on the hen roost, and her sons' and husbands' heads were there. And she looked at the horizon, and her youngest son was flashing his dhow to her, and she saw the gleam of it, and her heart was troubled, and she wept. And she wept. As she wept, she was stroking the lion's whiskers, and she cut off her forefinger thereby and died. So this gives you the basic plot in one of the more expansive versions of the story. But it's missing a number of pieces which often come up in other versions of it. And in the interest of time, I'm not going to read the translation that I have for the Kumi version of this, but I'll say a couple of things about it. So first of all, in the Kumi version, actually, the Tado version is a little bit anomalous because the beast which kills the father and the brothers is a lion. Right? In most of the versions of the story, the beast is tigers, and in fact, more than one tiger usually. In the Kumi version, it's actually eagles rather than tigers. So lion and tigers, you can imagine, similar thing, cats, but in the Kumi version, it's actually eagles. And so I recall I was translating this story that was called The Eagle Story, and I was about 9 pages handwritten into it when I realized, oh, this is the Wonderchild story, because the plot converged, right? So another thing which is missing in this version is after the child is conceived, there's a sequence where the child is in the womb and is talking to the mother from the womb. So you know, even before the child is born, that this is, the child is wondrous because, first of all, it has a conception which is unclear. Then the child talking to the mother. So there's a set number of conversations between them which occur in many of the versions, including the Kumi version, and also the Lamkang version has some conversation between them. So let's see, what else is different? Perhaps we can go to a system, well, I'll need to figure out how to do this, so. There is a way to do this without, no. Okay, I'm just going to have to, yeah. Oh, very good. It didn't give me any trouble. So if you do a systematic comparison of various elements of the plot, you can see similarities between the different versions. So first of all, tigers. Tigers occur in all but the Kumi and the Rengmiche examples. So in the case of the Kumi, it is eagles rather than tigers or some other cat. In the case of Rengmiche, the entity which kills the father and the brothers is actually the son. And so the Wonderchild sets off to take revenge against the son. And let's see. The vine cutter's story takes its name from the vine, which there is a competition in cutting at the beginning of the story in some of the versions. So in the Lai version, that's the case, the Tado version, the Lamkang version, and also the Mru version. So recall Mru is quite distant from these other versions. So that seems like it might be an original element of the plot in this story. So let's see. There are various things that I have on the left-hand side there, which you will recognize. Others maybe will not be so clear. One thing that's missing in the Tado version is an old woman. In the Lai version, there is a woman who's actually named the tiger-raising woman in the story. And so the tiger-raising woman is missing in the Tado version that we just heard. It's also missing in the Lamkang version. In the Kumi version, the old woman is not an old woman, but a snail. So the brothers, the father and the brothers and the Wonderchild, they all happen upon a snail who's washing her blanket. Nevertheless, it's clear from how they interact with the snail that she's an old woman. In fact, they call her grandmother snail, right? So even though it's a snail, it's a character that is maintaining this status as an old woman. Let's see, there's the mouse, which chews the bows. Let's see, another similarity that I don't have listed on the left there is this song that may be what I mean by the chicken there. So the song that the chicken sings. So you remember the chicken, the rooster crows, cock-a-doodle-doo, Chongpu's strong day is here, and the others will lose, and then vice versa after the lion throttles it. So in Tado and in Kumi, you have an almost identical song of that sort. It's not a song exactly, but it's what the rooster is crowing. So let's see, all of the versions have this magical pregnancy. Ringmiche, Kumi, and Lamkang all have this talking baby aspect of it. Let's see, there are others here. Perhaps I can come back to this and answer any specific ones later. I just want to mention some of the high points. Let's see. So if you go through it, you see a very high frequency of there being tigers involved in this story, of there being a vine involved in these stories. So there's some vine that starts out the story in many of them. There's this supernatural pregnancy. Another thing which frequently is attested is the children teasing the child. So you recall in the Tado version, the children are saying, why don't you go to take revenge for your father and brothers? So in a number of the versions, there's that episode. Then in another episode, which we haven't seen in either of these, but it's in the Kumi version, the Wonderchild has some communication with his grandfather, who is, let's see, in some versions of it, it is the father of his mother. In other instances, it would just be his grandfather, I guess, who's already passed away. And the grandfather provides him with iron weapons to go to take revenge, right? So in the Tado version that we listened to there, the child seems to be born with the weapons. It's not clear how that happens exactly, but that's what the text seems to say, right? So then there are some more localized things, such as in the Kumi version, when the father goes away, he plants a banana tree upside down, and he tells them, if this banana tree starts to bear fruit, then I've died, basically. And so when he dies, when the eagles kill him, then back at home, the banana tree produces incredible fruit, which, of course is impossible. But so that is more localized. It only occurs in a couple of places. The stripped tree version, I believe, occurs in Lamkang and in Tado. So those being languages that are fairly closely localized. So the point of the stripped tree is, remember the Wonderchild goes to fight the lion, and he first strips a tree of its bark and then pours fat on the tree, right? So by doing that, the idea is he made the tree slippery so that the lion couldn't climb up to get him, right? So another thing is a seed. So there is a seed which grows in seed pods. It's about this large, and when it dries, it's kind of black in color, very dark brown. And children have a game, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. They have a game where you take a seed and you shoot other people's seed. It's kind of a marble-like game, if you know what I mean by marbles. So that also is possibly more localized, but it's also a frequent thing. Let's see. So through systematic comparison, we can gain some idea of what was probably originally part of the story and what is perhaps instead more of a local origin. This is similar to the sorts of things that in 19th century and also revived in the 20th century, there was Indo-European comparative text reconstruction. So looking at Indic and Greek and other Indo-European texts. But I just want to make the point that comparative study of these texts is a worthwhile pursuit in and of itself, I think. So there are different versions of these around, and the pervasive folkloric motifs that I see in this text are the centrality of revenge. So this is a very frequent, in human texts, this is a very frequent motif, I think. I don't think it's anything specific of South Central persons, but it definitely is central in a lot of the texts of South Central peoples. So, and that includes even revenge extracted on parents by their own children. The other pervasive motif is that the youngest child is the most capable or the smartest. So among the 7 brothers, you've got the 8th brother, who is the Wonderchild. Now that comes out even clearly in some other, more clearly in some other stories. But first on the revenge extracted on parents by their own children. So revenge, just by itself, the wildcat egg story is one which involves revenge, a very widespread story where a wildcat kills a chicken. And at the last minute, the chicken plops out an egg, and the egg determines to take revenge on the wildcat. And so the egg gathers its friends of various sorts, and they all go off to kill the wildcat, and in the end, the wildcat gets killed. The banana flower girl story. So this is a story, this is a little bit different. So a magical girl is in a banana flower. And a young man comes into possession of this, and when the layers of the banana flower are peeled off, inside is this magic girl, and they get married. But an ogre, this is a kind of character, a kind of spirit that I can say more about that. With grotesque, so a character with grotesquely human features, I think of them as something like an ogre in other traditions. So the ogre kills the woman, but through some quirks of fate, the woman is reborn, and the woman comes back to take revenge on the ogre. The dove story and the bamboo rat digging story, those are kind of similar to each other. They involve children who are wronged by their parents. So the dove story obviously has to do with a dove, although it's kind of strange that it's called the dove story because the dove's only kind of a marginal character. But the bamboo rat digging story is technically not a bamboo rat. It's about a kind of mole or other digging creature that's bigger than a bamboo rat. In both of these stories, a child or children get abandoned by their parents. And then eventually the children make good, and they have a life of their own, and they invite the parents to visit and take revenge in one or another way on them. including killing them, right? So sometimes the parents die in these stories, as in the Tado version that we looked at there. So I'll say more about that in a second. Let me just say briefly about, oh, actually, that is the next slide. So the mother dies in a number of the versions of the story. And so one question is, why does the mother die in some of these versions? And if you look at the beginning of the text very carefully, or remember what I said as I read it, there was this portion here where one day, or on a day, as Shaw translated it, she set to wetting their dhows, right, so that they can cut the vine. And she wetted the children's extremely sharply, right, so that they were very sharp. But for the father, she wet the wrong side. So not the back side of the dhow, but the side. You have to wet a particular side. If you wet the other side of it, it just blunts the dhow. So why did she do that? And so maybe it has to do with the gentleman visitor at the end of the story, who the boy then discovers that she has betrayed them, or betrayed their father, or whatever. So that's what I think is going on there. It comes up in a couple of the versions of the story that the mother gets killed at the end, not all versions. In the Kumi version, there's a kind of a twist on it. So in the Kumi version, the brothers actually aren't dead. The eagle's stomach is such a large, roomy place that they're still there. They haven't been digested yet by the time I don't know how this is possible, but anyway. It's fantasy, right? So the brothers are still alive. So when the eagles are killed, the Wonderchild cuts them open, and out come the brothers. But then on the way back, the brothers, feel shamed, and they're embarrassed that they couldn't defeat the eagles, but this little brother could, and so they conspire to kill him. And so they try to kill him, but in the end they fail. He actually doesn't die. And he comes back and takes revenge against the brothers so that all of them die. But not the mother. The mother gets to stay in the house. So the youngest child is the most capable. This one also comes up in a lot of stories. There's a two girls story about these two girls who have some adventures, and the older one is stupid and the younger one is smart. The deer story, they're, I guess, stepchildren in this case, and the younger one is the smarter one than the other one. And the bamboo rat digging story, which I mentioned before. So in this story, the way it works is a father is widowed, and he has 7 children, 7 sons again, different 7 sons. And he marries a woman, and through her trickery, she convinces the husband to take them away and abandon them far from the house. And so he does that. He takes them bamboo rat digging, and pretending that they're going bamboo rat digging. And they're digging the hole for the bamboo rat. And he tells them, okay, just sleep here. And he puts a big rock over them and leaves them behind. And then they escape, and it's the younger brother, the youngest one, who is able to figure out how to get rid of the stone, and then he is able to manage to acquire wives for them and other things that lead to their wealth later on, and then they invite the parents and take revenge on them. So there are many other widespread stories like this. I've already talked about a number of these: the deer story, the banana flower girl story, bamboo rat digging story, of course, trickster stories and other stories, which would make really interesting later studies. So I think I'm probably out of time. How long have I been talking? Anybody been keeping track?
You have been speaking, I think, half an hour.
Half an hour. Yeah. Okay, good. That's about right. L.Somi will be happy. So one thing that I wanted to point out that will probably be apparent to most of you that this sort of thing happens is there's often transfer of episodes or sequences from one text to another text. And so you remember I mentioned the talking baby sequence. So before the child is born, it has conversations with its mother. And there's a story which is what Perry says is a a really important text to the Lakers, or to the Mara, I would call them these days. Once upon a time, a young man called Beata married, and after a little while it appeared that his wife was going to have a child. When she was in this state, she went to work in the paddy fields, and one day while she was working, the baby inside her cried out, "Mother, it will rain today. You had better pick a palm leaf to protect you from the rain." The mother replied, "You are still in my womb. You cannot know anything about rain," and so forth. So baby in the womb talking with the mother. And this is exactly the conversation that occurs when this sequence happens in the Wonderchild story. But unfortunately, this is not the Wonderchild story. So I read this and then I was very disappointed that it actually wasn't the Wonderchild story. It would have been strange to start the Wonderchild story this way anyway. But so I think it would be very interesting and maybe somebody has already done this, collect a database of all of the different recognizable sequences like this, and then we could come up with some kind of a map for what text a different sequence tends to appear in. But anyway, great fun. And I want to end with the second point that I wanted you to take away from this, besides that, there's a fantastic oral tradition out there, and there's lots of things that can be done with it. This oral heritage is in dire need of documentation before it is lost. When I began working in Bangladesh more than 20 years ago, the main consultants that I was working with were approximately 25, 30 years old, and they were unable to tell stories like this at that point. So the stories that I have are all from people who were already fairly advanced in age at that point. And I don't believe that it's that much better now. It's really important that we talk to the older people and record anything that they want to leave behind as their rich heritage, because we're running out of time. So I will leave it at that. Thank you very much. Hope you've enjoyed this story, because it's fun.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Patushan, for the thought-provoking paper with a lot of field data and recording, and several versions of the Wonderchild story. This is question time. If you have any observations, any queries, or anything which you would like to know.
I was wondering, in the story that you showed and we were reading line by line,
Yeah.
was the mother wetting the knife there?
The mother sharpens the knives for them, yeah.
But for the father, it was the wrong side. It was done by the mother in that story.
Yeah, the mother was the one who wet the knives. Do you think that's strange? No. Would you wet your own knife? I don't know why the mother wets the knife.
Differently, I remember it so.
Yeah,
the story that we were reading.
Yeah, and so the point is basically she wet the wrong side. There's a sharp side, and if you do it the wrong way, then it doesn't make it sharp. It makes it blunt. Yeah. So.
Or any more observations? Any questions?
No, I think that also one could compare the actual actions, like how do people kill a tiger? There's so many of those. Climb up on a tree and throw a spear into the mouth, kind of.
Oh yeah, I mean, so in the Tado one, they actually climb up onto a wall, and Shaw speculates that it may be a reference to some time when there were non-bamboo structures. So there are oral traditions that point back to there maybe being something more substantial. Yeah.
Lion was interesting because lions are not needed.
What are not needed? Lion, yeah, that's also another interesting thing.
Which one have a lion, but they have lions in the others?
No, the Tado version is the only one I've seen a lion in. Yeah.
It's an English translation issue, because I've had that when I'm talking to speakers.
But they have
Well,
tigers.
I mean, there's a tiger too. Yeah, it's not humpy. It's slow.
No, they're not needed.
They're not.
Yeah, it's a different word. It's not lion. It's not tiger. It's definitely lion.
Tiger would be king, yeah.
You might remember the tiger is another animal that comes along before we actually get to the lion.
I was just wondering what the word for lion is.
What the word for lion is?
Yeah.
Slow.
In the story.
Slow.
Oh, what?
Slow is the name, the word.
Then
Yeah.
tiger was.
Tiger's humpy, like everywhere practically.
Any more?
I was just wondering if you, I was just wondering if you have traveled all these places where there is a lot of variation.
Yeah, so I don't know really where Shaw collected this story. He might have collected it in Imphal or somewhere else.
I was thinking the variation may be due to the differences in the topography and the
Could be,
objects
yeah.
people are using it.
Yeah.
I mean, their daily life, everyday life. So maybe the objects are different, so the interpretation or the, maybe it's a reflection of that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, so the fact that in the case of the kumi, it's eagles rather than tigers. I don't know. I mean, there are wildcats of various sorts down where kumi is spoken, but I don't think there have been tigers for quite a while. So,
And the question was, have you been to those places?
have I been to these places? Well,
You have been to them.
I mean, I'm not sure where this story actually takes place, but I have been to many of the places on the map. So I've been to where Lamkang is spoken. I've been to, Tado is spoken in various places. So again, I don't know where that one was collected from. But yes, I have been to where the Ringmicha, the Kumi, and the Meru, and the Lai live. Yeah.
I have a very straightforward question.
Yeah.
But maybe difficult to answer. Like,
okay.
so many versions. Which one would you probably think that's the original?
Yeah, so
it seems like to me, it's like you're constructing a protoform kind of,
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do, but there are problems with it, right? So everybody's been kind to not point out that these are just one version of the story, right? So it may be that if you looked at a different version of the story, then you might see some elements in, so in Kumi, what's missing? Kumi is actually pretty good. So the stripped tree is missing in Kumi. But maybe if I had used a different version of it from a different speaker, and I actually have more than one version of this, but I haven't translated a separate version of it, which I will do actually at some point. But it may be that the speaker that I use the text from for these purposes just forgot to mention the stripped tree part of the story. Or it may be that whoever told the Tado version of the story forgot to mention this, or maybe they were in a hurry and they were trying to finish quickly, and so they left out the part where the child talks from the womb or something like that. So this is inherently problematic in terms of reconstructing things, but I think that the Lai and Tado versions are probably closer to the original. So the eagle that you see in Kumi, or eagles that you see in Kumi, and definitely the sun in the case of Rangmicha, those are, as far as I know, clear outliers in terms of what this story usually involves.
And then when you mention about Rangmicha,
it is possible that the storyteller has been brought
Oh, sure, yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this can't be, taken to represent, what the final version of what this story looks like for a given language. Therefore, you really can't reconstruct.
It is translated from oral to text.
Yeah.
You must be listening to someone there.
Yeah, sure.
Who doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Then becomes the definitive one, which is wrong one.
Right. Yeah, so in the case of Tado, I mentioned before I read it, it strikes me that it's more like a written text than the other versions. So the other versions, in a normal text in these languages, as far as my experience, the characters talk to each other. So there's a lot of quotes from the mother and the child, and from the father talking to. So in the Tado version, it talks about how he met these various animals before the lion comes on the scene. So I forget which they were. One was a tiger, one was maybe the wildcat and the tiger, and then he gets to the lion. But in the Kumi version, the father. Actually, in the Kumi version, there's no vine. And the reason for the father's going anywhere is because he can't put food on the plates. So it feels bad that he's unable to support his family, so he leaves. And he first meets the jungle fowl and tells the jungle fowl, eat me. And jungle fowl says, oh, I couldn't do that. Do you have children? And yes, I have 7 sons and a wife, that's 8, and me, that's 9. And the jungle fowl says, oh, if I eat you, then there'll be a war later. There'll be a fight. somebody will come to take revenge, right? So then he says, go away, go over there to the fence or whatever. And so he goes over there, and then he meets the jungle boar. And the jungle boar says, oh, how many children do you have? And he says, I have 7 children. He says, oh, no, I don't want, there'll be so this sort of thing. I forgot where I was going with that, but you can go ahead. Yeah, probably.
Maybe a question, they mentioned about Remita, right?
Yeah.
But is this almost the verge of extinction?
Yes.
Maybe there are 5-6 people speaking.
Exactly, yeah.
But how did you manage to get the data, the story, all this?
How did I
manage? How did you manage to get the story?
Well, I asked the speakers to tell me some stories, and it was. I didn't ask them to tell me this story. They just told me a story which is arguably this story. It's very different because there's no vine, there's no tigers, and in fact, in that story, the bad guy is the son. So the son kills the father, and then the 7 brothers go off to take revenge on the son, and they go to, I guess, the evening star, and then there's some other star, and then there's some other star, and eventually they get to the sun, and then the sun kills them too. And so then the Wonderchild comes along with the conversation that is typically there between the child and the mother and everything else, and then the Wonderchild goes and actually captures the sun in a big iron chicken basket. So the kind of basket for carrying chickens. This kind of loose weave basket. So it captures it in this, and then I think it covers it. It covers it in sap, the kind of sap that you catch birds with. So you put this white sap on the end of a stick, and you put some insects on it and catch birds like that. So anyway, then there was a problem because it was too cold. And so they had some further discussions, and eventually they let the sun go. So that's why we're okay.
So if there is any more questions? No more questions? I think we'll have to wind it up here because thank you so much for your author
Thanks.
paper.
I hope it was interesting.
We have to keep time for the next session. Where's for Shobna and
Yes. Yeah.
4. Okay, 5. Okay. Thank you.
So thank you all very much. If you know of any versions of this story, please let me know.
I'm very happy to be the coordinator for one important panel we are trying to put together. This is not the title of the panel, this is my part of the panel, but I wish I had another slide giving us the title. Nevertheless, let me read out the title to you. The idea is to talk about creating digital resources for the promotion of indigenous languages. We did not mention country or any particular province because we wanted it to be general. We had international audience in mind. We were supposed to have Gilvan Muller de Oliveira with us, who is a Brazilian and who was supposed to talk on his experiences in creating digital resources for Latin American languages. That's why we left the title broad. But unfortunately, since he was not able to get tickets on time to be in India, he's going to arrive after our program. So we lost him in the panel. Nevertheless, he has agreed to deliver a plenary talk tomorrow on oral literatures of Latin America online. I hope I will be here by 9:30 to set it up, and we begin exactly at 10, because for him it's 1:30. It's going to be 1:30 in the middle of the night. We should not delay it. We cannot afford to delay his sleep. So I think we should do that. So since we do not have Gilvan with us today, though the loss is big, the gain is some extra time for the rest of the panelists. And yeah.
It will be okay for him.
But we wanted to do it that way.
4:30 like 8 a.m.
But we could have done that at this time or whatever. That could have been done. But somehow there are other performances, theater. Some people were already scheduled and some things that. so we could not reschedule it. It's okay, what can we do? But since it's going to be online, I believe there will be more participants online from different parts because we are going to share the link. That's also there. So that way we have. Anyway, so now I welcome you to this panel. I repeat the title of the panel again for this august audience because you're valuable to us, though the number is less. You're very, very valuable to us. The title of the panel, once again, Creating Digital Resources for the Promotion of Indigenous Languages. All right. We have with us Hezekiel Dlamini. He is from UNESCO New Delhi. He is the director in charge of UNESCO New Delhi and an advisor of information and communication for entire South Asia. So we're very happy to have Hezekiel with us today in this panel. And we have Shobna Chelaya. She needs no introduction to this audience. She already delivered a wonderful talk this morning. Now we are going to hear again from her on specific topics addressing this particular theme. I welcome Shobana once again. And we have Alindra Brahma, my colleague from CIL. He is a Bodo speaker. Among us, he is the only native speaker of a Northeast language, a Bodo speaker. And of course, I'm saying in the panel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he's going to talk from his own experiences of probably Bodo Garo languages and to be more specific on Bodo resources for the future. And we also have Somi Roy in the panel. So please call him before the rest of us continue because he's also going to give his views. He is part of his being there anyway. And I'm coordinating this panel, and I've also undertaken the responsibility of, though I would not like to call, the so-called lead speaker. Somebody has to lead something. So I would say let me be the first speaker. That's a better way of putting it. And to introduce what we are expecting, not only from Northeast India, but elsewhere in the globe, because our mission is to safeguard and promote as many indigenous languages as possible. So I thought let me start with my own presentation to set the tone of this panel, so others will add to it, and maybe then at the end we will have some discussion. So we will, though here we are not strictly following time, actually we thought like we will speak each one of us for 15 minutes and we will have 15 minutes for discussion. So please, one of you can be the timekeepers for my own presentation. So let me know when, like 1 or 2 minutes here and there is fine, but I should not take away others' times because people are waiting to watch other music. Okay, some performances are going on parallelly, so let's begin here. So, okay, so as most of you know, I'm also from CIL. We are also working on several indigenous languages, and this particular panel is organized by us through our Center for Northeast Language Development. We have a center where both of us are involved in it, Lindra and myself. All right, hope this works. So I may not go into the details of my first bullet here because I expected, to be honest with you, I expected a lot of community people here. In addition to the academicians, like yesterday, when we had the inaugural session. So that's the reason I thought they may not know anything about the linguistic diversity of India, and maybe I might have been in a position to explain that. That's why, but I did not bother to change my slides because I did not know who will show up now. So the basic idea, nevertheless, I will just hint about it. Linguistic diversity of India, language endangerment, and how low-resourced our languages are, especially from this part of India. Low-resourced technologically, low-resourced otherwise too. So let us see what, and of course they are lesser known in the cyberspace compared to the other languages like English or Hindi or Tamil, which dominate. When you Google, you can get things. So we'll look into it. Also, let us take a look into, not only in my presentation, but also in other people's, the issues and challenges of developing digital resources, because it's not easy to develop such resources. Though we live in the era of information technology, you know that there is a huge digital divide in India, as is visible here. You have, even within Manipur, there are institutions which are highly equipped in technology and otherwise. So we do have this, and we are, so in such a situation now, how do we develop digital resources, like for the wonderful stories on Wonderchild and other things? How are we going to carry forward this Himalayan task? And also, that's why we need to devise some strategies to create multimodal resources, exploiting the digital technologies for indigenous languages. And also, this question is going to be more addressed by all of us, the last bullet, how to preserve and promote these lesser known languages in the Indian subcontinent. Because we need to take these cultures and languages and everything related to these communities out of Northeast India for the benefit of knowledge dissemination and also promotion, and also to maintain languages and cultures. But why this topic for today? I'm not going into this because for lack of time, but the basic idea is we are seeing a lot of advancements in technology. On one side, there are people who are developing automatic speech recognition, speech synthesizers, and so on and so forth. On the other side, we are seeing that for low-resource languages, we don't even have even keyboard processors, word processors, or the basic things, or even some languages do not have their devices to be used in the computer, or be it in social media or dictionary apps, or for simple typing also you may have to use Roman, even if your language has a script, some other script I mean. Roman is also a script. So what is the reality, what we are seeing here? These low resource languages, their visibility is very low. What do I mean by visibility? Suppose you now want to use a search engine and type Lamkong or whatever. Besides what you people are doing in Corsel or academicians putting together their documents, we may have some songs by people who are singing or who are performing, or there are dances, some YouTube channels. These are all at personal level, individual level. Very low compared to the scheduled languages of our country, the 22 scheduled languages of our country. There are no dedicated websites or any digital libraries developed by central or state governments to disseminate knowledge of their languages and cultures. That's not happening. I'm not only talking about archiving, even to showcase, we do not have such things. So the visibility is very low compared to Hindi or Gujarati or Tamil or other languages. It's not just us. If you take a look at the world, as per the UN estimates, we have 476 million indigenous people in 90 different countries, but these people are excluded from digital futures. We are talking about digital futures. We are still talking about Web 3.0 or even AI technologies, robotic technologies to use languages and propagate them. But for other languages like this, where we are sitting, we don't have even the basic resources. And also in the field of humanities, new things are coming up. Data visualization is catching up. Visualization is important, like your stories, beautiful stories, what you had. If we had the visual effects, recreate them, that will definitely have an impact on the younger people. And you said many of them don't know the stories, but they will produce more and more versions of it, because this is happening now in digital humanities. And that is something we need to do. And why are we interested in this? Because technological empowerment is definitely going to lead us to language empowerment, and which in turn will be useful for promotion of these low resourced languages. When I say low resourced, in today's context, in this particular 1 hour's context, I'm only talking about technology. I'm not going into other language documentation and other things because we are talking about creating digital resources. So as far as technology is concerned, we are seeing that many of the languages in our country are low resourced. I'm talking about what Government of India labels as tribal languages. Though for academic purposes, we have different labels. How do you define indigenous languages? Many people don't have a single definition for it, though I personally follow the definition of UNESCO, which seems to be okay. The socially and economically disadvantaged and vulnerable people, those are the indigenous people, and the languages spoken by these indigenous peoples are indigenous languages. I like that definition and I follow it. I am not saying you should follow that, but that's one of the definitions I follow. I'm skipping this slide except to show that in India we have, of course, when you see this slide, 22 scheduled languages and 99 non-scheduled. I think this particular group knows about this, so I don't have to elaborate on this. The only thing I would like to capture your attention is, does this pointer work? The red pointer? No.
The pointer's not very good.
Okay, doesn't matter. So you can... No.
Very close.
All right, does not matter. I can just point out from here. Oh my God, I'm dragging the mic. All right, doesn't matter. It's okay. No, don't worry. I lost. Something happened here. Yes. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the various groups. And the Tibeto-Burmese group, this is from Census of India 2011. You know very well, due to the pandemic, the 2021 census is yet to happen. So that is this one. If you see, there are 66 languages that are Tibeto-Burman. Out of that, at least 62 languages are spoken in Northeast India. So that would be the Himalayan part, Tibeto-Burman languages of the Himalayan part. That's the largest group, even though the number of speakers of Tibeto-Burman are less. Okay, so we do have, so of the total population, we have more than 95%, that is 96.71% who speak one of these 22 scheduled languages, while 3.29% speak the other tongues. All right. So this is something known factor. I'm skipping this. And this is also not new, that when the atlas came out of the UNESCO Atlas of World Languages in Danger, in 2010 we know that 197 have been labeled as endangered. Now the question to all of us is not just about these numbers. What have we done in the last 12 years? My question is that, not to simply say these are the number of languages. 12 years have passed by after the UNESCO released its numbers, and there are other academicians and groups who have also given different numbers of endangered languages of all countries. What have we done for the last 12 years? Do we see significant changes? I would say yes and no. Yes, in what way? Yes, in the sense that many of us are working on endangered languages or indigenous languages of our country in different aspects. Because now it has become more like a fashion, if I may use that word. People who are working on NLP or people who are working on different other aspects of linguistics have turned their attention to language documentation. So everybody wants to lay their hands on it. In a way, it's good because more people are coming forward to work. But on the other side, the danger is less trained people are also going to produce things. Production is fine, but the problem is all these things need to be cleaned up in different ways. That is the danger. But also another thing is, when it comes to technology, 2010 the number came, and now, can we say that out of these 197 languages, how many of those languages are technologically well resourced? Still bad. So we have been given another 10 years by the UNESCO, saying that this is the international decade. let's see in the next decade, if I'm still around in this world, if still whether this, what can we say about well-resourced and ill-resourced or low-resourced languages? Will there be any change in the statistics? Still, we haven't done much, at least in India, when it comes to creating digital resources. I'm not talking about other countries. Of course, this is also a number. Yesterday in Somi's house, we had discussed a little bit about this. We see that we have at least 550 tribes in our country, speaking a lot of languages across the Indian subcontinent. The majority of them are located in Central and East India, 85% of them. Northeast India has at least 11%, Southern India has the least. And these tribes, of course, you know very well, they are all unique in many ways. The thing that they have in common is many of these languages are under-resourced. What is different is the tribes of Northeast India are socio-economically better than the rest of them. This is one point. But another common thing among all those languages spoken by the tribes of India or the indigenous people is most of them are less documented or unexplored, and many of them are unwritten. They do have a wealth of knowledge systems, indigenous knowledge systems. That's what we are interested, because we know that indigenous languages are not only languages that are used by a certain group of people for communication, but also enormous and complex systems of knowledge, like from every piece. I didn't want to interact in David's session, but every piece of information you collect, you see their worldview. When you say people were discussing there are lions there or tigers there or eagles, that's their worldview, how you want to see your world and how you have seen your world. And that has also some hidden knowledge and what is their view of various things. Now, I'm not just talking only about folk stories, it could be anything, medicinal practices, or you have different things. Many such things need to be unlocked because there's a lot of local knowledge in it. Folk literature or ecological wisdom, histories, conservation methods, plant life, animal behavior, and so on and so forth. It's all invaluable knowledge for us. We need to document them because worldviews of indigenous people are important. It's their view. It's not your view and my view. How you and I interpret the story is based on our worldview, not theirs. So that is important. And also, we cannot forget the interrelationship between language, culture, and cognition. This is all we need to do. When it comes to ethnic groups and knowledges, the many indigenous communities from time immemorial have been using a lot of biological resources. But we have not documented much on this. Knowledge, skill, practices, all are disappearing because the keepers of knowledge and skills are very few in number. And the younger generation do not want to learn it. Like we saw that in this morning's performance, the father was telling the son must learn and he's happy. The son was also singing along with him and trying to learn something of his. But that is about music, but it could be for any kind of skill. Very little documentation is done unless visibility in cyberspace. That is why we are saying that it is important to digitize anything and everything about the practices of the community so that it reaches a larger global audience. It should be visible. That's why we have to work up with communities. That is the reason we are expecting, maybe at least in the next Listener Festival, I wish Somi was here, but it's bothering me, so I have to tell that because we are doing a festival not just for us, but we are expecting more community participation. Because if community participation is there, they understand what is lacking and what they can do along with us. That is one thing we need to do. And also, since this place is very rich, I have only 4 minutes, they say, but I'm going to rush through. See, we have to preserve and promote a lot of linguistic and cultural knowledge in the cyberspace and within the community. For lack of time, I may not go through everything, but when there is discussion time, I will come back to it, but I'll take from each slide at least one point. One point from this is to document forest management systems. This is not done in India. So this is very important. We need to collaborate with community geographers and other people, because biodiversity registration is very, very, very much important. How do you use plants and how do you develop medicines, or what are the different healing practices? These things need to be done. Otherwise, sometimes commercial companies can patent their knowledge. There are several issues when it comes to documentation which have been discussed for many years, and for this particular audience I don't have to go through this, but I'm going to focus on one important thing is, of course, we are creating recordings, and already Shobna talked about digital archiving. We are talking about, since there is lack of technological and linguistic resources, how do we go about creating digital tools? That is going to be interesting for us. And when compared to the major Indian languages, when it comes to the minor indigenous tribal languages of India, we see that we do not have language technologies or speech processing tools. Anything. We are living in a world where you have so many other things in your pocket. You can use anything like Siri is there, or so many other tools are there for modern languages and well-developed languages. We do not have. And in order to develop automatic speech recognizers, people say, computer scientists say that we need at least 100 hours of recordings for indigenous languages. Mind you, there are 1,000 hours of recordings for well-developed languages, 1,000 hours. We don't have even 100 hours of recording to recognize a speech, whether it is Lamkang or from yours, if I want to say Mru, or any other language you have been Lai, or to just listen to it and then get tuned. You need 100 hours of recordings in order to distinguish this. And I just wanted to say, cultural language is one thing where we need to develop some digital devices. Recently, I have come across companies like Motorola who have started doing such work in India. They're doing for the Tibeto-Burman languages of Himalayas. So they have roped up with people, I don't know, since it's being recorded, I will not tell the names, but there are some linguists known to us who are working with them. And Motorola is developing mobile apps and dictionary apps for such languages. So that is one thing they are doing. And see, these kind of things we need more and more. It's not just for elicitation of data, but we need to put these kind of pictures in a dedicated website. For example, if baskets are a commodity which is very frequently used by a community, what are the different uses of it? They can be used for carrying, sometimes like how this Apang man is carrying, or you have different uses like this for cleaning, for this. So many other uses are there. I use pictures, of course, for data elicitation because this is important nowadays. This is a Roga girl and a boy, and we have some huts for keeping musical instruments. This is recently from Lingam, where we are working on developing orthographies for a language spoken in Meghalaya. We are having problems in creating computational resources. These resources need to be created from existing ones or build up new ones. And many languages are not even written. So what do you do with these unwritten languages? The idea is, we know that it is very, very important. Even the language is unwritten. There is rich cultural heritage. We need to unlock that. And how do we get, what can we be doing about it? What attempts have been already made? What kinds of oral literature exists? What will happen to them if it is written? Therefore, if it is not written, what to do? We develop speech corpora and other things. This is one slide I put after listening to Shobana's talk this morning. Because there were questions, I think it was by you, I believe, about IPR and other things. This is a problem which cannot be immediately resolved, you know very well. But I was just thinking like, it's very important. How has local history been recorded? And even local knowledge. Who are the creators and guardians? What will be their role once a language is written? Many such questions are there which can be taken up while we discuss. Text corpora is one thing we need to build up. For that, we can use techniques like crowdsourcing. That is one important thing. Speech corpora and other corpora tools need to be built. And we also need a lot of dictionaries. This is something which we need to do. As you all know, there are a lot of tools available for making digital lexicons, which also can help us to generate dictionaries. Many more language resources. This second part is something people would be interested. Language games, stories, movies, songs and proverbs, because creating corpora is one thing. Even in Manipur also IIT, I think they are doing some work, and other IIT Guwahati is also doing in some aspect or the other monolingual corpora or general corpora. Parallel corpora is also important. But we also have Wordle and other things. Why can't we develop it for Bodo or Meitei or Lamkang? So we need Scrabble I put because everybody knows what Scrabble is. Not everyone knows the new language games. It's important to do that. Stories like your Wonderchild stories, they are what kind of stories they are, but with animations and other things we need to do. Movies, songs, proverbs and so on. And I think some of you are familiar with this publication. This is an interesting one which is brought out by Translation Commons, From Zero to Digital. So it gives ideas for people, community people, if you want to develop something from scratch for digitizing your own language. Like you can, it's freely downloadable. Anyway, quite a bit we can do: build talking dictionaries, create visual dictionaries, prepare online teaching materials, make films, etc. For lack of time, I'm not going into other things, but I wanted to tell that only last point I want to make here is, for many languages you have global digital library, but for Northeast India we don't have. I thought, like, since we are standing here, why don't we create a digital library for Northeast Indian languages and cultures? So it's a big task to do, but it's very, very important, so that once we have such things, the community will be empowered technologically and they will also assist us in helping us to build many important things. For lack of time, I'm just stopping here and we will take over.
But as per information I got, that this session was supposed to move for tomorrow as you started, but the rest of the, I'm asking, they didn't inform me. They're setting up the stage for the Pandava event.
Sorry?
I got the information that this session should be moved to tomorrow, but as you already started.
No, but it is scheduled for today.
Yes. Lack of time, and so we got stuck there.
But now we started, so yes. We cannot stop. No, it's okay. Now, since we have started, I now invite. Yeah, we'll finish it. So let's see.
So you can finish. I think you can elaborate. That's what I'm saying. Or maybe ma'am and sir can go tomorrow.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
Okay then.
No, we are going to continue the session, but I didn't get you. It should not be done today. Yeah, we will continue. So yeah, so I will invite the. Yes.
So he's not.
Okay, if he's not talking, it's okay. Like, what can we do?
If he wants to do something tomorrow,
we can
fill him in tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we can have a round table tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we won't do it this way, but we can tell him what we discussed and have a
Okay.
question session.
Something we can do. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because it's too late to. I already.
Then they informed that I should have informed her.
For tomorrow, it must be created by force, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was scheduled. Yeah. Anyway, since. See, the whole idea is to have a round table. It's become a round table instead of a panel because we are a few in number, in one sense. It's better because we get a lot of time to discuss. Now I invite Hezekiel Dlamini to.
I have some questions.
So you want
It's just an information. It's just an information that.
Yeah, we can take. I was just thinking if all of us present, there may be things to ask everyone, or if you want, I can. No problem.
I just needed an information.
Okay.
It's just an information question. You mentioned the Zoom talk for the tomorrow.
Oh, you're not asking questions here. Okay.
My question is, when we get a link for that,
Yeah, Somi is going to create one and share it with
A lot
us.
of people are interested in watching that. So
Yes.
that was my question.
Yeah, he has to create a link.
It might be recorded also, sir?
Yes, this is also being recorded, so.
Yeah, but people want to watch it live. So it's,
Yeah, all right, so that's not to me a question. Yeah, so, see, my idea, yeah, please.
Okay, so I wanted to discuss the definition of the term indigenous.
Yeah.
That you're, so I wonder if, oops, someone's calling me. I'll call it later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it possible to make a definition that isn't on the negative side, like somebody who's underprivileged or under economically, but can indigenous have a more positive spin on it, and what would that be? I guess is the question. I mean,
Okay, you see, since we also have a representative from UNESCO, he will be a better person to answer that. Nevertheless, let me begin that, and then you will add on in your talk as well. See, the basic idea is there is no agreed definition for this term, neither by anthropologists nor by linguists or other academicians or...
If I can add to what you're saying, even in Nagaland when I was there, they were saying, well...
Who is indigenous?
Who's an indigenous language?
See, the question is, that's what I'm saying, there's no single definition, no single agreed definition, okay? People have different views about who are indigenous people and what is Tamil indigenous. If you're saying indigenous going by the dictionary definition, all of us would be indigenous in one way or the other, going back to Africa. All right? I'm not going into all that. But yeah, like people argue that way too, because they say that if people...
We are originally from South India.
Exactly.
Indigenous to South India, that doesn't work.
Yeah, so the definition of indigenous, the dictionary definition of indigenous is not followed by, at least by UNESCO. Okay? See, somewhere if you have to draw a line, in many of the countries, like India, the people who speak, the 8.6% of the population of India who speak these so-called tribal languages are underprivileged in many ways because they are, except like only two of the languages, Bodo, Santali, they are the only two tribal languages which are scheduled, okay? Manipuri is little in the borderline, that's different, but they are the two literally tribal languages where when you talk about it. Manipuri is of course also spoken from here. Otherwise, what happens is none of these languages are taught in schools. If you take Lamkang or Lai, or when you're talking about Tedim Chin, so it's not used in the schools. It's not the medium of instruction in even outside school in private educational institutions. Also, people cannot give their exams for civil service exam, or the privileges what a speaker of the age schedule has in India are not there for the speakers of non-scheduled languages. That is why they are more vulnerable and underprivileged. I wouldn't say it's negative in one sense, but don't you think it's sad? That is why there are demands by 38 language groups to include their language in the age schedule. That's a matter of identity for them. Because what I enjoy, you don't enjoy. As a Tamil speaker, if I want, I can write an exam of IAS, IPS in Tamil. Or any other benefits, literary benefits and other things. Sahitya Academy also does not, only recently they are giving, but for many, many years they were not.
Like for Rajasthani,
they have included Rajasthani. That's the only non-scheduled language. It's not even language, because some would argue it is a variety of Hindi, and it has been put as one of the languages of the Sahitya Academy award, the one for language for which you can give an award. But there are, so that way, if you see like that, that is one problem, underprivileged, yes. And they are also like, if you see very much socioeconomically not good. Some parts of Northeast India are different, but if you go to Central India, East India, South India, they are very poor. Very, very poor. You know that. Northeast India is in a better position, especially if we go to Shillong. My colleagues used to have 2 cars, 3 cars. I mean, You know what I'm saying? No? They are better off. So many.
Shillong, not outside.
No, I just said Shillong. So there are people you. Kasi, yes, yeah.
The village is there.
Village is not. I said Shillong. Yeah, I said Shillong. So there are like, if you see, but definitely the people of Northeast India are much better than the non-scheduled tribes of South India or Central and East India. So in that sense, yes. And see, another main thing is many people, like many tribal communities are coming to the government of India and seeking endangered status, seeking tribal status, even if they are not tribes.
Right, but that's because...
Benefits are there. Because there are some benefits the government of India has, and there's so many other issues into it, that's a different thing. But to say who are indigenous, when you are celebrating the decade of indigenous languages, naturally English is not celebrated there, or French or German. They are not. Because it's very clear, like the minor and minority languages or the less resourced languages, it's very clear. Like we are not saying that 2022 to 2032 we have to promote English, we have to promote French or Portuguese, which are all well promoted.
We can continue this discussion.
Later.
I'll think about it overnight and
we will talk about it, but we can hear from him also. Yeah. So we can always continue this discussion later. Now I invite Hezekiel for his presentation, which I believe is in the same pen drive. You will take care of it? Yeah. I'm just going to sit there.
Oh, sorry, the mic.
Oh, I am sorry.
No, it was going to snap.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's in the same.
Thank you. Yeah, this is it. So, thank you very much. Oh, okay. So, this is next is here. Right, okay. So I'll just give a short overview of partnerships that we can develop to address some of the concerns that were highlighted by my previous speaker. These are based on what we've experienced or what we've done with partners, but also what we hope to do going forward. So basically, in the area of identification, documentation and codification of indigenous languages. IL there stands for indigenous languages. There is scope for partnerships. I mentioned yesterday in my remarks the partnership on producing the report on tribal and indigenous languages of India. The term tribal and indigenous languages came about because we could not agree that it should be called indigenous languages of India. So the debate is definitely relevant to India, and hence we settled for this, which seemed to be more acceptable to many people, maybe not to everyone, but was more or less acceptable to most people. However, you've heard about Copra and other tools that can be used to improve standards in some of these areas. My issue is, or my concern is that perhaps it should be more widely known how these tools can be used to improve this. Maybe also contribute to just basically the whole exercise of standard setting for documentation, identification, and codifying indigenous languages. And also, actually, I shouldn't just say only documentation, because that documentation for us does include actually preservation. It means we need to have standards that we can promote more widely. And India could be the one educating the rest of us. I come from Africa, for instance. We could learn a lot from what you're doing here in India. So it's a question of, if it is being done already in India, how then do we share that knowledge and that information for the benefit of others, perhaps who are not as well equipped and as knowledgeable as you are here in India. Building skills. This has been an ongoing exercise from the beginning of our engagement with indigenous languages. However, we we feel that the transition to designing, not building, but designing or reforming curricula has been slow. Not that it's not happening, but it's slow. That's our assessment. I could be wrong. And when I say slow, I mean in India as well. Because if we move fast in this area, then I think there's much to learn for the rest of the world, or at least for the global south. Again, another point that I mentioned yesterday is legal recognition. Actually, it's not just legal recognition of indigenous languages, it's also knowing how to categorize them for recognition. UNESCO says 10,000 and less, if you've got speakers that amount to 10,000 and less, that language can be referred to as endangered. So it's not even just indigenous, it's actually likely to go extinct in the near future. I must say, in our interactions with Motorola, Lenovo Foundation, Motorola, they had the same concerns, that it doesn't make, well, I shouldn't say that they are the only ones who, there are some of those who made concerns, or we had concerns that some of these languages don't make sense to invest in them, in preserving them, because the money or the investment that they have to bring to achieve sustainable preservation of the language would not make business sense for them, basically. Now, these are some of the things that that need evidence. They need evidence from academia, from research, that 10,000 speakers still make sense. A language spoken by 10,000 speakers still makes sense to preserve. We do need researchers to help us make that argument. Because it means we must actually have the data, we must have the impact of the language, we must have the value addition that comes with preserving the language beyond the 10,000. If you can have that evidence that preserving the language actually goes beyond the 10,000 who are at that particular point in time speaking the language, it can make business sense for those who are in the corporate sector to invest in. But there is interest, but it's a question of where, or the prioritization of where to start and where to go first. Production of supporting evidence, as I said, is crucial in this sense, and we think that, I think Uma also mentioned that everybody is doing something in some form and shape. It's not coordinated. Now, coming from the UN or coming from UNESCO, our interest is that we share this knowledge, we provide the know-how and transfer the skills, to as many people as possible, or in this case, I would say to as many nations as possible. And perhaps that's where, again, we have room for collaboration with partners. Tools. I think tools actually override everything now. Everything is digital. So, but more specifically in digital archiving, building repositories, dictionaries and search engines, this has been already discussed. And I do not need to emphasize more. We need at least to know what exists and where the gaps are, so that we can assess our progress. The decade has deliverables. It is expected, for instance, after a few years, that we will show evidence that these things are happening. Will there be change? Will there be any difference after 10 years? My feeling is that yes, there will be difference, because at least now we all agree that it has to be digitally driven. Unlike 2019, I think we had other approaches. Now I think we agree, and of course, if it is digitally driven, it will be cheaper to find solutions. And that's a conviction that we have. Automatic speech recognition has been mentioned. Development of interfaces or dictionaries, digital dictionaries and so on, are some of the things that we're discussing with Lenovo and Motorola, but they are going beyond that. They are looking for interfaces and apps, as you said, but also interfaces to actually enable people on the ground interact with their mobile devices. So there are a number of approaches that they would like to bring into this collaboration or this partnership that we're trying to have with them. Others have also expressed interest, for instance, regarding search engines. Google has expressed that interest, but they are very selective about which languages to work on. Much more stricter than Lenovo and Motorola. They really want to target those top languages that make business sense to them. Development of internet addressing systems. Now, this is a new one. Maybe some of you are aware of it, some of you are not. To make addressing systems on the internet compatible with IL. It's a concept which will lead to addresses in the internet, especially email addresses, being the ability to have them written in indigenous languages and indigenous scripts. Currently, if you have your email address written in your indigenous language, even if it is the Roman script, but especially if it is non-Roman, it's likely that it won't be delivered, it won't work. And if you give somebody that email, it might not reach you. Nothing will reach you. So standardization around internet addressing standards and systems is very important, and some work is already starting to happen here in India. We have engaged some experts to look into this. These are experts who are working with the ministry, with MeitY, the Ministry of Information and Telecommunication and I don't know, MeitY, you know it. It's complicated for me, that ministry, but yeah, they are working with them on the policy level to issue the standards at the policy level for developers of not only software, but also devices. How that would plug in to a multilingual internet. We're working on that report. It's not yet finished. We hope it will be published, at least the first version will be published soon. The idea behind that is that future devices I should have let me give an example. I should have a soft keyboard on this laptop, which if I want, I can flip over to any language that I want to use and still be able to work on the software that I'm using right now to produce, in this case, the PowerPoints that I want to produce. And that's the ultimate idea. But it takes compliance in terms of production of devices and their ability to conform, or if you like, to operate in those languages fully and adapt. It also takes that bringing it into line or aligning the developments online, especially in terms of in this case, when I refer to that, I refer to the standards that are actually currently existing on the internet. The internet has become a limiting factor when it comes to multilingualism because it actually works well in certain languages only. And it has not moved fast, despite the many advances, it has not moved fast enough to embrace everybody on the planet. I think that's my last one. Development of educational materials, I think, is well known, supported by the national education policy here in India. The requirements and the deliverables are well known to all of us. We have to reform the curriculum. Uma mentioned not enough teaching happening in schools, in colleges. I'm also aware UNESCO is interested in that area. Production of schooling material, not enough. Skills development of teachers to teach IL and to teach in IL, not enough. So we do need to address these areas, and we are, we have to find ways to make progress because there's not enough progress being made. Actually, I said the last one, but the last one is the next one. Promoting indigenous languages through traditional and online media. For UNESCO, this is a concern because we feel that there is at least an opportunity that we can grasp to popularize content developing in indigenous languages through traditional media in particular. Community radio comes to mind. In India, it seems quite effective. It was effective during COVID. A lot of government advisories were actually distributed through community radio. in indigenous languages. Perhaps it can happen on a more regular basis. Have more government information made available. Now, broadcasters will tell you that it's not just a question of translating. It's not just a question of having automatic speech recognition and having translated from text to voice. For them, there are certain standards of presenting the content for broadcasting purposes. The production process for broadcasting for them is very specific. Therefore, we have to then have this partnership that addresses their concerns for them to be able to come on board. But it is an area where we can work. Of course, online media also plays a part in this. And I'm sure work is going on in that area as well. But I will address particularly community radios, because community radios have this unique position of being close to the communities. And they tend to be trusted by the communities. And I can tell you that more and more, the government of India in Delhi is trusting them more as well. And is developing a more comprehensive or rather an expanded program to support community radio. So there's more and more support that is being provided to the sustainability or sustainable operation of community radios in our community. So it's an important area of collaboration for partners. And I can say honestly, I was hoping that some of them would be here. Because maybe they'll be asking me, but I'll also be asking them if what I'm saying is true, and if being here in the Northeast, they are not left out. Because I do interact with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, and from what I've seen, there is growing support for community radio, but I cannot say it reaches everywhere. I can only say that if I interact with the people in that particular region of the country. In conclusion, just inviting Imasi Foundation and organizations represented here, that let's build a strong and focused multi-stakeholder partnership for indigenous languages. I thank you.
Thank you, Professor, for your wonderful presentation. Now some questions or comments.
Oh, I see.
I'll
wait here. That's the point.
Yeah. Because since they asked me, I will.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone? Any questions or comments? Because UNESCO has a larger role to play in safeguarding indigenous languages. Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the major problems in working with these communities is not so much the instruments, it's the lack of power supply. So you cannot even charge a mobile phone in many of these villages. And in the communities we want to focus, they are in that situation. So, so that is one thing we need to look at. And I've always thought, why in India we don't promote ham radios? Because I know they use it a lot in South America. And because we're talking about mountainous areas, very, very remote villages, maybe only 1 or 2 families, and maybe you have to walk, 5-6 hours for the next, family. So, we tend to think in terms of villages and, a few hundred people, but in reality, a lot of these isolated places, they're very, very isolated. So I think that is one thing that we need to pay attention to, because as far as, a lot of people now, especially in the Northeast, they have mobile phones and they have WhatsApp groups, and they can work with that. But even with WhatsApp group, I'm working on an endangered language right there, and they put me in 2 WhatsApp groups. One group they gave up, it's entirely in Mizo, and so then they created another group to learn, Raute, which is, they're trying to learn by spoken only, and even that they're struggling. So even that, because there's no planning and there's no curriculum, the idea is good, but it's not working, and people are leaving the group, and people are very, very discouraged because, and of course, COVID didn't help. So that's a ground reality that we also need to look at.
Yeah, I think that was a comment. I think that was a comment, and I think it's a very useful comment to take into account. I mean, now we also have solar as an option. But Doesn't work in the East. Okay. Oh, wow. That's a new one for me.
What did you say we have?
Solar energy.
Solar.
Yeah, solar energy,
But there's
yes.
no solar.
In the hills, we don't get enough sun.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Ah,
They
wow.
have solar here in the plains, I think.
Yeah, it works only in the plains, yeah.
Ah, I see.
Not up in the mountains.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we don't have public transportation, so even that, communication is very limited.
So when you said radio, so community radio, did you mean internet radio or old AM, FM radio?
Well, that's a very good one. That's a very good point. Yeah, it's traditional for us means the, FM radio. Or,
FM, right?
yeah, simply because,
You're on time.
You're on time, please.
yeah, simply because the government recognizes only licensed radio so far, and it only supports licensed radio. It doesn't support any. Online radio should be an add-on, but not the primary channel for communication.
How hard is it to get permission from the government to use bandwidth?
Well, they're trying to ease it up. I came to India in 2019, and it's better now than it was even 3 years ago. But yes, I would say they still check. They do some serious checking. I think some 3 ministries are actually involved in that, including the Ministry of Defense.
I would like to do a radio show on grammar of the language, like tiny lessons, because people don't come to workshops, but they can have. But I was thinking more in terms of podcasts, or something you could put in a USB stick and they could listen to whatever they wanted to.
Yeah.
Power is a problem.
Yeah. Power is a problem, yeah. But that would be a problem for FM radio, unless you had batteries.
Yeah, so radio is
Okay.
Yeah, so just to add to what Ezekiel was saying, see, we are talking about devices, digital devices, and of course, we discussed about community radios. It's also important to have community television channels because these are the other things which people of not only Northeast communities deprived of in India. We have hundreds of channels for Tamil or Bollywood or other languages. We don't have even one per language for these communities. And that's one important thing we need to do because broadcasting, telecasting in all possible ways, wherever we can take the languages, how we can exploit technology. It's important, like grammar was telling, even dictionary, the stories, visual documentation of photo, because these are the things which can be again telecasted in some dedicated channels. If you have a TV like ZTV, why can't you have your own Ni TV or whatever, not this TV? I mean, I'm not kidding anyway. You should coin something and do something about it. Anyway, so thank you very much. And before I call upon the next speaker, the organizer of the festival, very much. L.Somi has something for us to say from a minister, and they're going to play something. So let him introduce what they're going to do before I call upon Shravan.
Yeah.
So you're stamping.
If I may take a few minutes. Are you going to be ready? A few minutes. My apologies. I did intend, first and foremost, to have parallel sessions all throughout the festival. So, how we've ended up having one program there and over here is a fulfillment of my original desire. That's the best way of looking at basically a screw-up on my part. So please, I beg your indulgence. And I want to introduce you a very special friend who's come here. We have Imasi Foundation, has a lot of, and I think David, you would appreciate this. We are a lot of chiefs are no Indians, which is an expression we use saying that there are lots of people, very important people, and very few people to make it happen. So we are all chiefs and no Indians, which is of course ironic considering that we are in India. And Satyajit Ariban is an advisory council member, and we reconstituted Imasi Foundation last year to create this advisory council and brought in 4 young people. The foundation trustees originally were my mother's friends, and some of them have passed on. Many are, unfortunately, weak and old. They're in the late 80s now, perhaps 90. And we have, I'm proud to say, the creme de la creme of Manipur's cultural leadership. We have 3 Padma Shris among us, 3 Padma Shris returned among us, and a lot of distinguished awards. They have been the guiding spirit, and they are great artists. The greatest artists of Manipur today are on the trustees of Imasi Foundation. But we want to reconstitute Imasi Foundation as a forward-thinking organization, because what we need is to create the legacy of MPB, and legacy necessarily by definition means for future generations, for young people. So we have a new generation of very dynamic, enterprising young people from Manipur who are now on the advisory council, and Secretary Everyone is one of them, which is in Delhi.
Microphone. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, it's all L.Somi's kindness. I'm just like, you know, I'm just following him. Whatever he says, I'm trying to do my bit. And I'm very happy to associate with this Imasi Foundation, and I hope I can deliver my best, you know, whatever. I'll just say these few words and, you know, just continue, because we're already late with the schedules. So, and we'll be playing a short video from Honorable Minister Meenakshi Lekhi. She has just sent a video. I'd like to play it. Thank you.
And one of the things that we have people now in Delhi helping us. Again, very, very unhappy that our dear friend Sanjeev Bihari is now in the ICU after his cardiac arrest, just the day before he's supposed to arrive here. And so we miss him terribly. We hope he will recover. And as a new concept of a festival that is neither here nor there, or if you want to look at the other way, everywhere, we have been talking to a lot of institutions, and the idea of the festival keeps morphing as the discussions happen. In fact, sitting right in front of me is Shobna Chalaya, with whom I shared some of the earliest ideas of how this festival is supposed to, could be. And we do have some of her original language in our proposal still. And so I thank her for helping conceptualize the festival. And as we talk to Tani Changte, dear friend, to Uma, to Hezekiel, through the pre-festival curtain raiser, it changed. Are we creating digital resources in the middle of all this by doing this? Perhaps we are. I mean, I came in the tail end of the discussion, and you're talking about television. Last night at 9 o'clock, we broadcast Asanganong Jabi, Crimson Rain Clouds, a play, on village community radio station called Diamond. It's about in 1 hour from south of Imphal. And I'm told that their listenership is actually greater than All India Radio now. It's a community radio station run by some very enterprising young people in a farming community near Kalbal. Kongjom is actually the town they are based in, where the Battle of Kongjom took place. You know. So I'm very interested in rural community radio stations. I'm very interested in radio, but I'm also very interested in the rural. I'm very sorry that we cannot take you to the Loktak polo game as planned, because the government announced that as of today, no outdoor events can take place in Manipur because the children go into their school finals for the next couple of weeks. So all outdoor events
have been banned. Indoor, you can chat and talk and discuss. So, but we have to deal with certain ways in which the Northeast works, which is frustrating, but it's also an interesting challenge. But being part of the process of creating culture over here, I think has been quite the most rewarding thing about trying to put this festival together. It's been 4 years since we first started, and we do intend to travel this to other states in the Northeast. But right now we have the Pandwani. We're taping it all to send to UNT and Indiana University. So you will get to see it, but we have Pandwani performers from Chhattisgarh performing right now, even as we speak over here. And this is our connection to say that through literature, through orality, through performance, we also connect to the mainland India, different cultures of mainland India. So every year we will have some program that will connect the Northeast to the rest of the country using literature, because we are not politicians, we're not funders, we're not economists, we are arts curators, performers, and activists. So while we were setting all this up, are you ready?
Not yet.
Not yet? We have a message coming in from Meenakshi Lekhi, the Minister of Culture in Delhi, Minister of State, and we had met with her. And she also was very interested, genuinely interested in this, not just being a minister, you know. We had a wonderful meeting, which probably went on for more than an hour, just us in her office. And she has said that she will support this festival, and she supports it this year. It will happen next year also, I assure you. So I think we are on a good footing as far as the powers that be in Delhi are concerned. Sentila Younger and I, we've been talking about, I might just say it because we're all family here, about doing the next one in Nagaland. We want to do Nagaland next year. The time we'll have to discuss a little bit, what is when. And so I wanted Satyajit to come and play the videotape that we just received, not half an hour ago, from Meenakshi Lekhi's office to the listener, the attendants, the people who are participating, the organizers, and so on. So are you ready? It's a video, so we're going to project it here.
Namaskar. It is heartening to know that Imasi, the Maharaj Kumari Binodini Devi Foundation of Manipur, is organizing the Listener Festival of Oral Literature, the unique initiative that focuses on preserving the non-text and pre-text traditions and literature of Northeast will bring to light the intangible cultural heritage of the region. Culture plays an important role in the development of any nation. It represents a set of shared values, attitudes, goals, and practices. A country as diverse as India is symbolized by the plurality of its culture. The plurality and multiplicity of the Indian culture is evident to the whole world, as India has one of the world's largest collections of songs, music, dance, theatre, folk traditions, performing arts, rites and rituals, languages, dialects, paintings, and writings that are collectively known as the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. Intangible cultural heritage of any nation is tantamount to the soul of its civilization, people, and history. It is imperative that we preserve our intangible heritage for the coming generations. I'm confident that the initiative undertaken by the Imasi Foundation will further help in promoting and preserving our heritage. My best wishes are to the members of the Imasi Foundation and all the participants for a successful oral literature festival. Jai Hind.
Meenakshi Lekhi.
All right, so thank you, Somi and Satyajit, for this.
Okay, I think I misplaced my phone.
Beautiful message from Minister Meenakshi Lekhi. We are honored, actually, her message was played as part of our panel.
Yeah.
So that's something nice. Anyway, thank you. So we are going to continue on creating digital resources for the indigenous languages. Now I call upon Shobna Chelaya to present her views on today's panel.
Sure.
I think, shall I close this, Hezekiel? This is,
okay, please.
You can place them on back behind.
Just, yeah, you can just.
We would love to have a copy of
Just
all
remove that.
PowerPoint
Can I?
presentations.
Just put on the.
Shobna, who's Uma, who's our?
Alindra and then you.
Then, so I'll just go pop over and come back. I know Jagan,
Are like our goals at Corsal for helping build digital resources. They're very different from linguist goals, I think, the way that we work as linguists. So as linguists, we often like pick one language and then we work through to try to get from the source material all the way to the description. But what we're trying to do in Corsal is work with community members to have them collect what they want, not what we want for making a grammar or a dictionary, but what they want for cultural preservation. So we train them to do that. And once they've collected that source material, we work with them to do the transcription. Some of you, only one person, two of you who are not linguists here. I think everybody, and Ezekiel, so 3, and our 2 tech people. So I'm speaking to you. So you may not know how complicated it is to actually create digital resources for a language. That's what I wanted to really bring across. So it takes many different steps, right? One is figure out what you want to record. Why is this piece important? Figure out how to do the recording right. Like these guys are trained. You know how to do video, and all of us don't know. We have to learn. Like David now has it down. You've got nice framing for him. We've just learned how to pick the right equipment for the right place. We're learning those things, but we want to train community members once they choose what they want to record to do that. After they've done that, then there's just a recording. That's not a digital resource. That's like just some raw material. You can't do much with it except view it as it is. So we want to train them to use software to transcribe using some kind of practical orthography. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to be authentic to the recording. So this is different from CIIL, where CIIL very often does wordless and you may also be doing the naturalistic text, but you also have a focus on linguist down, right? Because we say we want these wordless and we want, and I'm not.
We go beyond that.
You do. It's the order probably. So I also do exactly what you do as a linguist, but for Corsal, what we're trying to do is to really build the corpora up quickly by starting with this, find the choice community members who are already ready to do this work, who maybe they're already doing it, and give them that added push of, here's a recorder, here's how you should use it, I'll be back with you in 3 weeks to see how you've done. And we have constant touch points with I'm calling them my staff, but they're really my students who love doing this work, and they're on payroll, but as students. And my dream is to actually have staff, full-time staff, who can help with this contact with community members in different places. As I've traveled through India, especially Northeast India, I've met several community members who are really ready to do this work. They just need the finances and they need the support. So that's what I'm trying to do. So the second step is to train them, either that person or another group of people in the community, because it's often not the same person. One person is really good at finding the elders and recording, and then they're done with it. They're bored. Like they do not want to sit at a computer. They want to be out in the field. So you find another set of people who are like, give me a computer, and anytime I have free time, I'll sit down and do the transcription. And they like technology. So they can create these kind of very simple transcriptions. And that's as far as we need to go, I feel, to get the first pass of work and really build up a corpus of Boro, a corpus of Tiwa, many of these languages that we're talking about, to then train linguists on my side of the ocean and linguists here to be working together to get it to the third step. So that's sort of my vision of where Corsal is going for long-term planning,
for building up the corpora that we'd like for our computational resource for South Asian languages. So building a digital resource like a digital dictionary, phone apps like you said Motorola was doing, all of those things need those things that we began with, which is that recording of the community member recording a recipe or doing, how you build, how you do weaving, all that feeds into the dictionary that we finally create. And so after they've done the transcription is the next phase. And we've been doing some training for people to start analyzing those longer pieces of text into words. Those words then go into a dictionary. And they can then be added to with existing materials. Like we're doing a lot of OCR scanning. Like we've broken a lot of books in the last 6 months or so. As I've moved from one state to the other, rather than moving books, we've opened them up, scanned them, made sure we can OCR those, and bring them into dictionaries, existing dictionaries, or creating it. And we've been working with people to build large spreadsheets with these word lists, so they can then fill in cultural information. They don't have to be experts, but they can fill them in. So we just are working, us and Corsal are working with different sets of people in the community with different interests and different levels of expertise. So you don't have to have technological savvy all through the community. You just need people who can do different sorts of things. With the dictionary spreadsheet, what we found is one set of people go out and get the words. They type them in. Another set of people are really good at IPA, and they work with either the recording or with the original person to get the IPA in. And that's actually something we've left for the last. The thing that we're really focusing on, getting good definitions and getting older people to say exactly what kind of basket, what is it made of, how do you actually make this recipe, what is this kind of fish, where do you find it? So really detailed definitions that you don't find when outsiders make dictionaries. They make very short definitions like a basket, a type of black bird. So we're trying to avoid that kind of thing. And that's what we're focusing on with the dictionaries. Once those databases are made, you don't need Motorola. You really don't need them anymore. You want to do a phone app, you can go up to, SIL is one of those places. You can go and do a phone app in like 2 seconds. Upload your database to Flex. Flex goes into their online, the way they do their online dictionaries. And from there you can do a phone app. But there are other phone app things you can get from. So many students are building phone apps nowadays. All you need is that big spreadsheet with the data. So we're working with people to do that. So Motorola doesn't want to work with our languages of 1,000 people or 10,000 people. We don't care. Goodbye, Motorola. We don't need you anymore. Or don't record that. But so then the last part is that these long extended pieces, people go in and put in the word meanings, but then they also have to figure out how the sentences are constructed. Where's the subject, where's the verb, and so on. We need that for doing like faster translation, like automatic translation. And so to make bigger corpora. And so that's like the last part of the training. And my hope is that I will find more students. I had some great students at UNT who are working with the populations that we're working with till the dictionary part. And I'm hoping now that we'll find more students to work on the higher translation part. So I'll summarize here. To build digital resources, you can use all sorts of fancy things. You can say, automatic speech recognition or this and that. But really what you need is linguists working with communities to collect really good materials, do phonetic transcription or orthographic transcription. No one else can do that but linguists, because we're the ones who really can partner with people to help with phonemic analysis and really understanding how to do that. Next, doing definitions and word level analysis, and finally sentence level analysis. May sound boring, but we are really good at it. Linguists are good at it, and I hope that the next pot of money that comes out, somebody will hear that and say, linguists are good at it, and put some money behind that. Because if we can train community members to help with each step, and then partner with linguists for the final step of analysis, then going from source to analysis will not be as daunting. It's not one person working individually on different languages, but a group of people working on a language or a language family. And I think we won't do a perfect job, but we'll do a much faster job that can be then perfected by, the David Petersons and the Tange Changtes of the world, and linguists like yourself. You can go and take what's out there, and in Corsal, half digested, ready for you to work on, and give it to one of your students to then take to the next level. And I think we can do a lot more that way, and communities will be invested in it as well. So that's Corsal's contribution to creating, or Corsal's vision for creating digital resources for the world. Thank you so much. There may be a question.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Thank you, Shobana, for sharing your views on the vision of Corsal, which of course you are taking from UNT to Indiana.
No, Corsal remains at UNT because the infrastructure is there, and Indiana and UNT will have an MOU. So I continue to direct it, and our students continue. We actually are growing rather than and moving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you. So it's interesting to do that, and now having heard from Shobana since morning about digital archiving, and she has been lecturing in many parts of India about this, so some of you are already familiar with this. Any questions or feedback? Or anything crucial that you think should be taken up or
No, you think it'll work? Think it's a good plan, or is it going to not? It's worth a try. I mean, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to think of it. Like, do it. Excuse me?
It's already producing
useful resources.
Yeah, it's already producing some, like, for example, you found your story. You did, yeah. People are citing that it's in Corsal, yes.
I think on Google Translate is so key. They've added a whole bunch of languages in the last 2 years, and
it's off.
One of them is Mizo, and I've heard from people they found it very useful using Google Translate.
I tried the Manipuri, and have anybody tried the Manipuri Google Translate? Have you tried the Meiteiron one?
Yeah, some people have
you tried, but sometimes there are lots of mistakes.
That's what I thought too. Even me knowing very little, maybe the Mizo is better because maybe they're. I
try it for Thai every year.
But the more you try it, the more
it learns. Yeah, it learns more. Yeah.
Is there some software based out of Kerala or the south of India to translate this, apart from what Google does?
Where's the Google India, you mean?
Google Translate,
Yeah.
I mean, apart from Google Translate, is there some other company which is doing this in India, in the south?
And is Microsoft?
Google India is very popular.
One is being translated from Microsoft.
Yeah.
Even for Assamese language, being translated from Microsoft is better than Google Translator, and it came much more before Google Translator.
I have heard some software which is built, developed in India, much better than Google is.
Yeah. See, so many small companies are also doing, and see Motorola, because we again and again talk about Motorola.
Yeah.
Like, see, their goal is, of course, I was told that they have a kind of a template word list or whatever. They give it to linguists, and the linguist's job is to find the right kind of native speakers and kind of elicit data and put the essential IPA and other information and give it back. There's a lot of training for the linguist as well to use different devices and how to fine-tune his or her thinking to get it done as a mobile app. And afterwards, they're given maybe 3 months or maximum 6 months or so, and they have to produce the product. The problem is, like, though we are saying we don't need any such companies, what is happening is many places in India, we are all working in isolation, and there is no one person or a body or an organization which can take up all our products. I'm talking about Indian situation. It's very nice. Corsal has an open repository system and is welcoming everybody to join hands and do it. And but many of them do not know about Corsal except academicians. So my request to you would be to give more publicity to it and what actually you do. And many of them are scared when we say we want to transcribe, we want to do other things because they are not linguists. So that is, what is the benefit of putting their indigenous valuable knowledge in Corsel. That's something we can, maybe you need to do some more mobilization so that people come forward to do that, and so that we also can share, and maybe we also need other repositories which can also afterwards join with Corsel, something like that. CIL has started, of course, at a small level, but we need more to do.
But in terms of the use, we've just mentioned Google Translate. So if we have resources that are built up, those could then really help a company like that create that translation.
See, many IITs of India are interested in doing, but they don't seem to know what to do. Because many of them talk to us when we are invited for talks, they say we would like to work with linguists. So I think now we must have some
I don't know about IITs, and I don't want to say anything bad about anybody else, but I want to say this is really hard work, and it's very time-consuming work.
Yes,
and people don't want to put the time in.
Exactly.
They want to hire somebody to do some word lists and do them. It's not going to work.
Yeah, that is what is happening with many of the dictionaries. What we see also, most of the times they are not dictionaries. They are just compilation of word lists. Somebody would have collected 2,000 words or 3,000 words. They will put them together and produce something, call it as a dictionary. That is again a problem.
Is Google Translate working for other languages? Is there any example?
You mean for indigenous languages?
Both Chinese and I think Mandarin and English, people use it often for.
Not even Portuguese.
Or Japanese and English. So you're saying the Thai doesn't work?
Russian works pretty well, they say, because we get many, like I think you know Evgeny Kuzmin. He writes lengthy messages in Russian and sends one line at the end saying, "Oh my, use Google Translate and know what I say." So it works pretty well for Brazilian Portuguese, Russian, French.
In OTT platform also, when you watch a movie, there's a language option also.
Yes, the automatic captions, right? So come out,
Full text. But
you need just more. You need more data, basically,
But it's
and
not
that's what
good.
we're trying. You need well transcribed,
Exactly.
well translated data, and that's what we're trying to do here. So.
And why some of the, like we just mentioned, like in the case of Mizo, when the AI is the artificial intelligence question, it becomes more effective. I mean, what differs? What is it that is behind the success of a Google translation for one particular language?
It's the volume of it.
It is, and so imagine this, right? So if you have a word like, so Meiteron has a word like me, if you pronounce it one way, it means spider. If you pronounce it another way, it means man. But to have that identical MI, if that's all the machine is seeing, it can't make the difference. So you have to have a way for the machine to distinguish polysemy, one word that means several things, or tone differences. So it is only as good as the data that goes in, and then the machine has to work really hard to understand those differences if you haven't pointed it out, So then it'll be talking about spiders instead of men.
Any other question for Shobana?
Thank you for the panel.
Thank you so much. Always nice to hear you. Yeah, now I invite upon Alindra Brahma to talk on what to be documented on digitized.
So, first of all, I welcome you all to the session, and I welcome the organizers, particularly Mr. Somiro and sponsors. So, actually, yesterday, immediately I thought that I should, speak on this, but it's not, a kind of well-organized speech or well-organized slides here. But as a linguist, and I belong to a community of Northeast India, I have some observations, like I left my native village in 1997, 25 years back. That time we, used to play around, like folk games and we enjoyed, But if I go back there now, it's like a feeling, I feel like something is not transmitting actually from the elderly generation, not elderly only, even from our generation to the present generation, the younger generation. So I thought that I should pick up some things which are, missing there. Yeah, and those actually, need to be digitized. Documented and digitized. So it's at the beginning it's more like linguistic, but towards the end it's more like folkloristic. So actually, before I joined CIIL, I was looking for job actually. So even in 2011 and 12, I worked with NFSC also, National Folklore Support Center. So I was also into folklore, and it's one of my favorite area. So I also worked actually a few things. So I start with script, orthography, reading and writing. So this is a kind of, sharing not only me and my team actually. So we were looking for a lost script, but it is not lost now. It's an endangered script used by Bodo people of Assam. So earlier actually we got to know that the name of this script is Zangkrao script. Okay. But we found it as Mahiri Bidab. Okay. So we started from the westernmost part of Assam. Then coming from there towards the eastern part of Assam, we found it in Bizni area of the state. It is, under this Chirang district. Earlier it was Bongaigaon district. So the left top picture is of vowel. So this is like Brahmi script O, A, E, E. But how they actually read it? It's like a O. It's like Dui, O. Actually, Dui means water in Boro. And it starts with, school stage, the small kids. So how to read is actually O means what? In baby talk, it is Dui. Okay, Dui means water. In baby talk, it is O. If it is a baby, then we will just, tell O. Okay, it's not Dui. But in general, the term for water is Dui. In case of baby talk, it is O. So they will, not O, sorry, go. Yeah, it's like go, O, like that. Then A in baby talk, it means die. So it's like tui, like that. Yeah, yeah. So it's connecting the baby talk also with the, the words in the normal language. Then like E, like a small E, it's like a short E. So it's E sung. Sung means short. E sung. E lao, like that. Lao means long. Like that they pronounce these letters. Then the right side is the consonant side. There also, a systematic way of, reading these consonant letters. Then we also collected some actually written text, handwritten text using this script, and actually they are using it, in writing their mantras, chantings, and the prayers. So in this handwritten piece of paper in the photograph, it is like Bima Gederni Aros. Bima means mother, Geder means big, Aros means prayer. Prayer of the big mothers, like that. So now I'm learning it to, how to read it. So I'm happy to share it with you. Yeah. So this is one handwritten volume of using that script actually. So the name of the book is Gudi Bijab. So it means primary book. So I tried to write this book, and now I can read the book, and I can understand also what is written in the book. So our actually aim is to produce one script book of this endangered script. So we have also produced script books from CIIL. So some of the pages we can show. This is from an introduction to Mite Mike. So we are producing. It is in print already. So it is an introduction to Mite Mike, reading and writing. So I have my co-editor, Dr. Brojen Singh. So we prepared it from CIIL with the guidance of Professor Uma Madam and all the senior people there. So we are putting the words, letters like this is Pa. So the general description, like fifth letter of the Mite Mike, which is called Ipiaek. There are 27 letters in Ipiaek of Mite Mike, then 8 letters in L.Somi. So we have already prepared this also. So we are trying to prepare a book like this for that script. So this is another letter from Mite Mike. So this is from Assamese. This is from Boro, like that. Yeah. So these are the script books we have, prepared until date. So there are also, some auto-instructional indigenous language learning courses we tried to prepare actually. Already we, prepared and published from CNELT on Tiwa language teaching and learning. So this is a kind of handbook where we actually incorporate basic, even some advanced level vocabulary, along with the basic features of the language in graded manner in conversational text, followed by some practices like that. So I have also included this point that we need dictionaries. So I got an idea actually from a computer scientist that if we can produce an online dictionary, suppose with 500 words, okay, then we have to give access to the users. I mean, there should be like a provision of user interface. Some users, even all the users can, create their passwords and IDs, and they can contribute to the dictionary. But it will not get, published immediately. There will be some people in the middle who will be monitoring and approving the, entries. If the entry is acceptable, it can go online like that. And it can be edited later on also. And some important informations, related to that entry can be, included later on. Then visual dictionaries, I, got to see one like English, German visual dictionary. Those kind of dictionary, even, it does not need any, meaning also. You can, give the meaning with the photograph. And another dictionary, good dictionary, interactive talking dictionary. This is the whole idea of, creating interactive talking dictionary is of Professor Uma in the CNELT. But, we are just, started actually. We have just started. Yeah. 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 So now coming to folk speech. So this is one of my publications. I thought that actually the folk speeches, which are going to, disappear. Those should be written down and digitized like that. So I, along with my wife, we collected around 180 proverbs, 97 riddles, 222 idioms, 185 folk beliefs, myths, etc. of the Bodo folk. And actually this is in Bodo language. I have a plan that actually we should, translate it into English or other languages also. Yeah. So here I was very much interested in, how to, describe the folk belief. Okay. Like in folk beliefs, what is happening, I have already included somewhere in the slides, but I will tell you. Suppose the dragonflies are, flying low, not above, not too above, low. Then it's a kind of, a belief that it's going to be rain. It's going to rain. It's going to be raining, and it can be also, traditional. What we can weather forecast system kind of thing. Yeah. Then I actually worked with one of my friends. He is now director of physical education at Dibrugarh University, Dr. Montu Boro. One day he called me that, do you know any name of our local folk games? So I said that I have a list. Already I had this list before he called me. So I already collected 26 general folk games, which, maybe they played by any age group of people, and like 12 folk games, which are basically used by kids, the younger people. So he also asked me, do you know this game, how to play these games? Then I said that I can remember that if I can get a chance, I can try to recreate. Because these are no more played in the, in our village or the, the localities actually. So he asked me, can you draw one playground of one, So I did this one. So this is called Reedy. Some people also call, different, they use different name to, this particular game. So as you can see, it's a very systematic game, So it looks, like it's like kabaddi or, more systematic than kabaddi, like that, no? Yeah. So I explained this to him. I think today I should not explain because it takes long time to explain it actually. Yeah. Anyway, that B1, B2, B3, B5, B4, B5, these are like, one line that people, players in that blue hat, they will be there, And entry one, 2 people that with the red hat, at least 2 people should enter through entry one like that. And the first B1, he will be, letting them go. Just he will be in the middle at the time of entry, like that. Then they have to go, and finish all the Bs. Yeah. Then the same kind of entry will be, through the re-entry at the side, like that. And there are some rules like while touching the, player, then they should not, touch the line like that. Or if someone goes out of the line, out of the field, he will die like that. I mean, out of the field. He cannot continue the play like that. So this is, I got it a very, systematic, and I can recreate it now even. If someone asks, how to play it, then most of the games I know how to play. Yeah. Then coming into the traditional knowledge systems, actually, I went through so many things actually which are related to traditional knowledge systems, like traditional performances. Magical realism is also related to that, which has its place in science fiction also. It's a kind of, I think recent literary theory also, this one, magical realism. So these kind of things are there actually, which we need to, digitize. Yeah. So I have included like a charm also, which is used in, in influencing someone. I know myself. How does it work actually? It's like if one girl doesn't love me, I can just apply it, she will love me. Yeah. This kind of thing, practice is there. Yeah. And then folk medicine, and along with folk medicine, we can have, these kind of terms, ethnobotanical linguistic terms, and how these terms are formed actually. So we can find in the names of plants, medicinal plants, their names are, if you can see, it's kind of extended metaphor. They find out similarities, with some other thing and give the name to it like that. So I worked on word formation in Tiwa, Dimasa and Boro, and I got some, this kind of data actually. So, and these are related to folk medicinal plants actually. Then hunting tradition, I worked on hunting tradition also. I have some photographs also, I'll show you. So these are the things that I think that we should work on. Not only on Boro actually, this is for other tribal languages or indigenous languages also, because I have gone to different linguistic areas like Tiwa, Deuri, Dimasa. So it's important, I think. So this is some photographs of hunting tradition we did in 2017 and 18, just before pandemic. So it's actually nowadays it is an endangered tradition. Hunting is an endangered tradition, but it should be endangered. We should not encourage hunting anymore. But there are so many things related to community and their language in this hunting tradition. And even the trap and ergot trap. I requested this person that if you can, make it for us. We are not going to use it, but you just, make it. He made it for us actually, and he showed how to, trap and ergot like that. Yeah. But this collecting firewood, this is real. It is happening now also. It is not hunting actually, not an example of hunting. What happens, the village people who are residing near the forest area, when they have to do some festival or ritual, and they have to prepare food for so many people, they need firewood. Then they will take permission from the forest in charge, and they will allow them to bring dry firewoods. Actually, they cannot cut, but they can bring the dry ones. So these are also like these are also part of folk hunting tradition. Like these are wild vegetables. Yeah. And now the new generation, they are not, knowing names of these, plants also. So I included this, this is hunting tradition, community fishing. So there are so many, terms and, stories, encounters happening in this kind of, activities. So those may be digitized. And I have taken some lost or endangered words. Actually, due to this hunting tradition becoming endangered, this is also endangered. The word is also endangered because this particular sandals made of tire, it is used in hunting only, so that you can run around inside inside the jungle. Anyway, this is Feita. We cannot get it, and the young generation, they do not know the name of this. Yeah. Again, this is a piece of wood used to strike on it while washing clothes in the river. Even I could not find any image of it now, like that. It is called nadar. So everywhere water is drying. We do not have, water in river in our native places. So it may be, because of that also. This is also like this baby loom, traditional baby loom. We cannot find it. Yeah. Then, as Professor Savannah has already said about this cuisine and recipes, even yesterday Mr. L.Somi said about it. We have to, it's not necessary that we have to, revitalize the food items, but the story, the instructions, actually the cuisine and recipe, how to prepare the food. Those stories we can, document and digitize. So these are also some aspects, seasonal, social, religious, agricultural rituals, which we can document and digitize. So I just wanted to include one thing that we come across, this kind of restrictions, restricted data, restricted researchers. That should not happen. A researcher, he or she, himself or herself should not be restricted. Then restricted domains also. So with this restricted data, actually, I can give you one of my experiences actually. When I was assisting my friend. Actually, he is an electronic engineer, and he was, designing one silkworm detecting system. Silkworm detection system means when the silkworm stops eating and starts, making its cocoon, then we have to identify it and keep it aside. Okay. So he tried to, make one such detective system. So I went with him in a Rajvanshi village in Sualkusi area of Assam. It is just 20-25 kilometers from Guwahati. So we came to know that there is a folk song, and it is, restricted data. Only adult female can sing it, and no one can go there and listen to it. Because what they do, when the silkworm, comes out of its cocoon in the form of a moth, then they will keep the female moths only on a dried cotton, clean cloth to, lay eggs. And they will just throw out the male ones. And to, make them lay eggs, they will welcome male moths, butterflies, from across 7 rivers. It's a belief. Okay. So to welcome those male ones, they will sing a song which we cannot, we cannot record. Because it may have some slang words like that, which, these younger female members or male members cannot, hear like that. So he said that, can we hide one recorder inside the room where they sing? But I said that it's not ethical. Yeah. But anyway, we cannot get some data because of this kind of thing. And restricted domains is like this place. Actually, when we, when we went to this place, they said that if you are not from our religion, you cannot take this data, like that. So this kind of restriction is also there. So luckily, I'm Brahma, they are also Brahma. Okay, so I could go there and collect data. And this is kind of, data which actually we have to wait for long, actually. This is dancing on a short, actually, sub-short. It's a completely kind of, shaman dance kind of thing. So we cannot get this kind of data, actually. We had to wait for 10 years to, collect this data. Okay, so I just, finish here. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Arvindra, for sharing your experiences on documenting and digitizing Bodo. Though it is one of the scheduled languages of India, very well it is, still there is much more to be done in Bodo. So any questions and feedback, comments?
That was a good list, really helpful.
Yeah.
And I think the restricted stuff we don't hear a lot about, so it's nice that you pointed it out.
Yeah.
But do you feel like because you're Boro and you're Brahmo, you got those things that you can share them? Because
No, it was like, I do not think that they do not allow actually. But before we go there, some people went, they told us that we are not from this religion, so they did not allow us. But they did not ask us anything, even our names. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
But it may happen to some other places. Yeah.
Any other question or comment? Nobody? Good. So thank you, Arvindra, once again, because of course a long journey to continue and document many more things, whatever you can, because you still have a lot of years in your service, both at the institute, even otherwise. I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So now I would like to invite Somi Roy at the end of the day and at the end of the session. He's going to talk about creation of digital resources that, I don't think so, you can go. So he's going to talk about creation of digital resources, basically at the Imasi Foundation, along with UNT, and his focus is going to be on open access. Thank you. Somi, the floor is yours. The time is yours, you're the last speaker. 15 minutes. I'm having a hard time saying. 15 minutes, please.
Yatra, Kapadao.
You're so sure. He was absent, so he gets less.
Screen share to yaar, copy taroga. Okay. Thank you, Umarani. As also the director of this festival, I'm very grateful for the two panels that CIIL has organized, along with two talks, one by Dr. David Peterson and the other by Jovan Muller d'Oliveira, which will be on Thursday, online incidentally, since, no, day after tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, day after. So the road has been a somewhat long and interesting one, interesting to me, certainly. And ever since I started visiting Manipur, I started taking up certain projects. And one of them was manuscripts of Manipur, and which I started first with the University of Kentucky, after shopping it around to Columbia University and to Cornell. I figured that all change must come from the fringes. And so I went to Kentucky and worked on the Manipuri manuscripts digitization project. And that is when I met Shobna. We organized a Manipur colloquium in 2007 at UK in Lexington. It was a one-day program by Dr. Evelyn Knight. And we brought Mangangsana, the Pena balladeer, whom you saw in Delhi as well, Ezekiel. And he'll be featured on the last day. He's also an Imasi Foundation trustee. And from that, we tried to raise money for this, I think at least 5 different times. Twice with UK, Lexington, and certainly, and that involved the British Library and the Dun Huang project that I brought here. And then 3 times with you, through 2 NEH, and 1 to UCLA. Interesting and oddly, we always got turned down. And Mary Molinaro, who was my partner at UK, was herself serving on the committee for the NEH, the panel. She was on the panel. And of course, we made sure there was no conflict of interest. But having been on the funding end of things, I've also been on certain panels for NEA and for NISCA and so on in New York. We know that it was a very good proposal. Our proposal, Shobna, you also were there when you were with the science project with the NSF. You've been on both sides of the grantor and grantee, and we know it's a really good project. In fact, the VC asked me about it the other day, what happened to it? You went off and created Coruscant. I went off and started writing books, and I used my research in manuscripts to create a book. I wrote a book called And That Is Why, a first book on Manipuri mythology from Penguin, and I'll be writing a sequel. I am writing a sequel right now. Are you guys ready? Okay. I'm talking just to wait for you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So in the process of all this, I started creating certain digital resources. One is something called the Manipuri Learning Module, which while we were setting up how we're going to be working together, I parked it on Zenodo at the suggestion of Dr. Nathan Hill of SOAS, now with Trinity College in Dublin. And my mother's literature is a whole trove of stuff, both published, unpublished, drafts, notes, etc., that I have to create as an Imasi Foundation archive. This is going to be the final step of my work with Imasi Foundation. The first one is making sure that they don't get lost and get published. I published 4 books last year. One, this book is now in Bangla. It came out last year. I wrote a biography for Sahitya Academy, and I have to now republish all the books in Meitei Mayik for all the people in Manipur University. So I'm working on some other titles now. I have 2 more books to publish from Vinodini's work. I've published 3 unpublished books, manuscripts so far. I've actually published 11 books since I came back here, which is about 5 or 6 years ago. So this has been my main thing. But one of the things that we did was Crimson Rain Clouds, which is the translation of the play that was broadcast last night. I did the translation to English, and because it's a short play, 15 pages long, I included the original in Meitei Mayik, which had never been done before, and the original in Bangla script in which my mother wrote it. And then I included the audio of the play recording, audio recording, and a transliteration. And for that, I produced a transliteration romanization system, and which I ran by you and by Nathan and several other people. I still haven't published it. I want to publish it all as a book. photographs from the original stage version, and accompanying introductory essays, so that anyone in the world can sit anywhere, Rio, Osaka, Johannesburg, anywhere, and learn Manipuri. If you know how to read English, you can learn Manipuri. You will hear what it sounds like, you will be able to read what it looks like, you can understand it through the English translation, etc. It's a module. And so this is one of the things that we're talking about how to put it in Korsal, as we already have it in Korsal in a way. And so there'll be an Imasi Foundation collection at Korsal that we have been working on for the last few years, actually 4 or 5 years now. Okay, next slide. In the course of this, when I came back here, I disappeared for more than 20 years, and I forgot who all my relatives are. And I have 13 grandmothers, and I have no idea who's my aunt and who's my cousin and so on. So I started something called the Jalakeli Project. It's a project based on the Sri Sri Govinda Jiu Jalakeli Pala. Pala means choir. It's a music project of Nata Sankirtan, Manipuri classical music, and it is based in the palace at the temple. It's a family project because only descendants of Maharaja Nar Singh are allowed to sing in the choir. Whether you can hold a tune or not is secondary. And for this, I created video documentation of the performers because I wanted to know who they were. They seemed to all know me, but I didn't know them. And so we did about 20 video interviews by Abo, our man who's the coordinator here. And so we've parked that. We gave all this to Mark Phillips of UNT, and it is all at UNT archives right now. And we did interviews, and we made a film about the performance itself. It takes place every May on Buddha Purnima, the full moon of the Buddha in May at the palace. And then we translated the original text from 1844. That's when the Pala started. And then we published all of this, including profiles of past members, in a book called Ningsing Lakpada Jalakeli, meaning Remembering Jalakeli, and it's by my cousin, Todingjam Lakshmi Priya. She's not a scholar and she's not a writer, which makes the book for me extremely attractive. It is just raw, hagiographic, memory-based, based on interviews with other family members. There's no pretension, there's no analysis, there's no theoretical framework, nothing. It is just a list of things and profiles. We're trying to finish one before you leave, so I can give you a thumb drive you can take because it's very heavy, the file. If I have to send it, I'll have to. And in the process of this, I created a digital genealogy. And right now, any Manipuri can actually go there and put their family tree in there, but based on the women of the choir. So these are some of the digital resources that I have developed so far, and we wish to take it to the next level, and I hope I'll find some time after today to sit down with you and kind of talk with you all about what some of the things we can do. And but the larger goal is to create a digital archive. You didn't come yesterday, but you've been there, my house. I'm hoping to turn that into a digital library, mainly because I can't bear to live in Imphal anymore, the traffic and the dust. So I want to turn that into I'm finishing up the legal paperwork for that, turn that into a digital library and research center. So, Pangi, if you want to come and study something related to the Northeast through our collection, what the documentation we're making here this time would all go into that foundation with the help of the metadata expertise of Shobna and staff at Indiana and in UNT. And so my ultimate goal is to create an Imasi Foundation digital archive for international and national. The digital knows no boundaries, study and research. Universal access, international research, collaborative scholarship that we'll be talking about tomorrow. And so these are some of the things that I've already found a potential museum partner here in India, and because I need all the help I can get. And so that's what I've been working on, the two things, the Manipuri Learning Module, and then the Jalakili project.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
for this, I should say, short but crisp wrapping up in one sentence, because we have been sitting here for 2 hours dealing with our heart. We started at 4. We thought we will end up within maybe 70 minutes, 90 minutes. But that shows that even though the numbers are less, but the interests were there and people were kept engaged. So I'm not going to wrap up again, because I think all of us are very much tired. I just would like to end by saying that it is important for us to contribute in all possible ways to create digital resources for languages of India in general, and to be more specific for Northeast India. Just even though it's going to be little by little, we know that little drops of water make a mighty ocean. So
That's a song, isn't it?
that's a saying. So,
Yeah, thank you. Yes,
yeah,
yes,
anyway,
indeed.
so thank you so much, Somi, for giving us a platform to talk about this, because that's very, very important. And since it's recorded, I believe it will be kind of shared with the community people, so that we get their reactions and they arouse their interest, so that they can join us in this project, and maybe we, or the other way around, we can join them and help them to build their own digital resources.
Sometimes people you grant something and other people get ahead of you because they see things that you don't. I got a message the day before after when I was planning the opening from a friend of mine who teaches at Ambedkar University in Delhi. She's saying, please share the YouTube videos ASAP, and she's going to be teaching her students at Ambedkar University using the documentation that we're producing. So people already are interested.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah. So thank you so much once again. So I thank all of you on behalf of CIL for being either a speaker or a listener in the business festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a nice evening. And thank you guys for your patience, because since morning you have been doing this job.